Welcome to the April 28th meeting of the Town of Southampton Conservation Board. In accordance with the governor's executive orders, all of the board's meetings will be held remotely via video conference until further notice. So we ask the public to continually check the town's website for updates and new information. The link to participate in this meeting via Zoom can be found on the town's website. This meeting is also being live streamed on the town's website. If you do not wish to speak at the live meeting, but you would like to submit comments for the public record, the link to submit comments can also be found on the town's website. Board members who must recuse themselves from any application will state so on the record and will be removed from the meeting until the end of the discussion and vote on the application. Also, as a reminder, we ask that applicants and their agents please state their name and address for the record. Please join with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And roll call. Harry? Anne?
Here.
Sunshine?
Here.
Michael?
Here.
Tom?
Here.
George?
Here.
Jerry?
Yep.
So we'll begin the public hearings. And the first is A019100, the Colonel's Way LLC. And this is Susanna's. Is she?
Yeah, I'll let her in.
All right.
She's coming.
Hello.
Hello, Susanna.
Hi. The homeowner would like to join as well.
He's coming. John
Okay.
Betts. Thanks for the message.
You're welcome. He wanted to be on the last hearing and was unfortunately listening, but couldn't get on. There he is.
Start his video.
He's on his way in. I see the name, but I don't see the image.
John, you got to start your video.
John, are you here?
Yeah, but I see no audio either. Well, I'll try to sort him out while you guys continue.
Okay.
Well, be good for him to come in at the beginning because it is his application.
Yeah, he really did want to be here. I'm wondering if he's having audio problems with the computer. Maybe he could call in on his cell phone.
Yes, he can.
Charles, can you send him a message?
I can. You can even chat with him.
Let me see.
I mean, he can hear us, I'm sure. Let's have him call.
A lot of times no one notices the chat though when it pops up. Probably better off texting.
You know, I'm gonna put him back in the attendees and then let him in again and see if that.
Do a restart.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to text him as well.
Okay. When in doubt, reboot. Now, all I see is his video. I don't see any audio.
If it were video and no audio, I just suggest cue cards.
Okay.
Oh, we can't see him either.
Now we know what Helen Keller went through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very frustrating.
You know, can you call him?
Yeah,
And
let
then
me try
put him-
that. I'm gonna mute myself and
What you
call
could
him.
do is call him and put him on speakerphone and we can hear through your mic.
Okay, well, we'll see if that works.
Yeah. We do that a lot. Yeah, you're right.
Okay, so I gave him the number that Karina just put up. So hopefully he can dial in on that. Charles, will you know when he dials in?
I don't see him yet.
Maybe I can try dialing him in and putting him on speaker. Let me try.
Yeah, that'll work.
All right.
What's the meeting ID number? I wrote it down, but apparently it's the wrong number.
The what?
I got somebody else. The meeting
Susanna.
ID number?
Um,
I have three. Meeting ID number.
ID number? Is there an ID number that he needs, Karina?
Meeting ID number.
Yeah, 1 second, I'll get it.
Okay. We're getting that for you.
Okay, I don't know why this is working. I've been on my
I'll go the long way. Yeah.
You need the webinar ID?
You need the webinar ID? Is that what you're looking for? Is that
Yeah.
what-
I
Okay.
have it. Do you want me to say it or no?
Yeah, go ahead. Hold on.
Webinar ID is 844-5037-4217.
And then the
Passcode 313944.
He can't hear very well. Can you put it in chat, Tom?
Yeah, sure.
I put it in the chat.
You did put it? Okay, hold on. Whoops.
Okay. Just unbelievable. I got a talk about. Let's see. You put in the chat. No, I'm not in the meeting. I was in the meeting. No, I'm out of it. So let's see. Let me go back this way.
Hold on.
Some common errors. Wait a minute. Now I got. Now I'm back to the agenda. I was originally at. Passcode. I see the passcode. That's what I was using before. But it won't let me use that passcode. So 313944 is the passcode.
Okay, I can't get back to it for some reason.
Remember that ID? Okay. 844-5037-4217. Okay. So have we called it back again?
Yeah, try that again. You try to call in. Okay. All right, we're gonna try this one more time.
got him.
Got him? Okay.
Okay, he's able to talk.
All right, John, you can talk if you want to unmute yourself.
Talking is permitted. There you go.
All right,
Okay.
finally, Jesus.
Done. Okay.
Okay.
Yay. All right. Sorry. Thank you so much for your patience, everyone. Susanna Herman and consultants for the applicant. This is the continuation of a public hearing from 2 weeks ago, 55 Fish Cove Road. I was sharing my screen. Can you guys see that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, good. At the last hearing, we talked about the fact that there's an existing house at the property, and we're demolishing that house and reconstructing a new house. And I know a couple of the board members wanted to go and see the property in person. And I don't know if that raises any new questions or anything, but since the last hearing, we have had a lot of talking between the architect for the project, David Sherwood, and the homeowner who's on the call, John Betts. And we have made some revisions to the plan, which it's not on the survey yet, but it's on the site plan done by the landscape architect. This is the previous proposal that you saw at the last hearing. This house size was, proposed house size is 979 square feet with 240 square feet of proposed porches. And based on some of the comments we heard at the last meeting and trying to make this the best possible application, we've taken the square footage of the existing house, the existing one-story house, and we have revised the proposed house down so that it matches exactly the footprint of the existing the square footage of the footprint of the existing house. So we did that by taking out a 9-foot wide section east-west through the middle of the house, shrinking it left to right as you're looking at it here. So now this is 832 square feet and equal to the existing house. The wetland setback is the same because there's no way to really make it any farther from the wetland. This dimension here is only 21 feet. The skinnier portion of the house is only about 16 or is 16 feet wide here. So really can't make it any narrower between the street and the wetlands. But we have reduced the square footage of the house and also reduced the square footage of the front porch just a little bit. So this is our current proposal, which is a reduction from the last meeting. And I did want to go through very quickly. I made a list just to summarize the proposed mitigation that we have at the site. And I realize, we submitted this application to the Conservation Board in August of 2019. So we've spent the last year and a half looking at alternatives, revising the application, trying to make it the best possible application that's possible. So I just wanted to very quickly summarize the mitigation that's proposed. And I'm starting with the biggest factor, which I think is the most important. The septic system is being upgraded to an IA system, which will actually be located across the street. The existing system is most likely just a cesspool based on the age of the house. I doubt there's anything beyond that. It's located about 45 feet from the wetlands line. And just a reminder, the existing house is 8 feet from the wetlands line. The proposed house will be 20 feet, just over 20 feet setback.
What will you do with the old cesspool, Susanna?
The old cesspool, let me pull the survey back up. It is, it's right here, close to the road. So it will be removed according to Suffolk County Health Department standards, which typically means they pump it out and fill it with sand. If it makes sense to physically remove the ring, they'll do that. But most of the time, it causes less disturbance to just fill it with sand.
Okay.
It's not actually interfering with any of the proposed structures. So that's what we'll do. Everything we're doing here, yes.
Could you repurpose that as a dry well for gutters and stuff? I see you have a dry well proposed over in the corner of the property, but unless it gets disturbed by the construction anyway, can you repurpose those rings for something else? And then you don't have to do anything else with the other dry wells.
It's a possibility. I don't know. We'd have to see the condition of it.
Okay.
I'm
Well,
not
it's,
sure.
it's a question just to make things
Yeah.
a little bit.
Yeah, I think they would have to open it up and take a look
Okay.
and see if that makes sense.
Just asking.
Is
Yeah.
is the proposed IA system mitigation, you said? Or does it have to be put in there for this project?
We're required to put in an IA system because it's a new house on the water. What I'm including as mitigation is the fact that instead of being proposed on the site, it's being proposed across the street, which is going to be requiring easements, a variance from the health department, considerable expense, but it does allow for a much better wetland setback. This is a survey of what was originally proposed. I don't know, can you see that? Let's see if I can make it a little bigger.
What size IA system are you putting in? Which one?
Well, I have a separate engineering design which I can provide. I I don't know if I have it on this plan. I can get you that information if it's important, but it's
Yeah, I'm
one of
just
the,
curious to see what size it is, for how many bedrooms.
oh, it's the minimum size, and it's a good for up to 4 bedrooms. I forgot what I was saying. So yeah, the proposed mitigation is not the fact that we're putting in an IA system, but we're going through the exercise of putting it across the street. We looked at a lot of alternatives for the sanitary system design. The submitted application included an IA septic tank here on the property. And our original proposal was to reconstruct the house in the location of the existing house. In order to do this, this gets you a 34-foot wetland setback to the proposed expansion galleys here. And you would also have to regrade this area because the health department has very specific requirements with respect to the fact that where you put in a septic system, it has to be flat. So there's a lot of grading and a retaining wall along the street and perpendicular to the street here, which was going to cause a lot of disturbance. So we looked at other alternatives. We looked at instead of doing the leaching galleys and this type of IA system, we looked at doing the mats. We actually submitted a plan from our engineer to the Conservation Board staff, which had alternative designs. You know, every possible type of IA system on the site was investigated and vetted, and our engineer just determined that this was the best way to do it on the site. We even considered flip-flopping the house and the septic system, putting the house in the middle of the property and putting the septic system here where the existing house is. And the engineer determined that that was not a feasible alternative because the lot is narrower here than it is here. And because of that, there's not room in this location to put the sanitary system. And then at the advice of Marty, we investigated with the health department the possibility of putting it across the street, which I didn't think was possible. But after corresponding with the health department, we were told that it was a potential way to do it, that we would require variance, but they had approved other similar projects where you have a sanitary system across the street on an adjacent property across the street. So, so this is one way we looked at it. We looked at flip-flopping. We looked at alternatives in this location and went through very many iterations before we got to the project that you saw at the previous public hearing.
Which was the first time we saw this application.
Right.
So I just want to be clear about that because that's why I wanted to go see the property, because I'm very familiar with the area. I've seen that house before in the past. You know, so I wanted to see it for myself. And that was the first time that we saw this application. So as much work that has been done on it, it's the first time any one of us got a chance to see what's going on. So,
Understood. And my preference actually would have been to get on your agenda much sooner so that you can see all these iterations that
even if it's not on the agenda, I'd like to see the property prior to it coming on the agenda. So
I think it's always a great idea for the board members to go look at the
I
property.
try to go to all of them. But
I think that's great.
now, when we talk about the IA system, you know, and talk about mitigation, and you know, the biggest thing that I saw when I went to the property was that it's very narrow. To me, a practicable alternative is reducing the size of the home,
Which
and
we've
putting
done.
it- right, but by 70 square feet. The whole where the IA system goes and what type is going in there, I mean, it has to be put in the IA system. So I don't see it as mitigation. I see it as, you know, let's try to put the smartest system, you know, on this property as possible. One of the things that when I looked at the property and I see the house behind it, and I just think if that house ever had a 25-foot expansion and it would be in need of putting in an IA system, the first thing that this board would say to them is put the IA system landward of the pond. And it would probably be behind the house. So when I see this system being put in front of the other house in front of it, I just say to myself, this is crazy. Just because the property, had a house on it, it just hasn't been functional. The septic system that's on it probably isn't usable. And it's not for this application. So an IA system has to be put in. So that's why I was asking, hey, I'd like to see what type of IA system was being proposed, especially with it's not passive. You have probably 2 pumps involved, right?
There is a pump involved, correct. I can get you the engineering plans. We can submit that so that you can take a look at that. It was done by David Rhodes, TF Engineering in Sag Harbor. He's probably one of the top experts in this area, having moved here from another state where the IA systems have been used for decades. So he's very knowledgeable about the design, and we have his engineering plans, which I can get to you.
I always defer to the county anyway, because
Right.
The engineers are certified. There's only a handful of them that are allowed to design these systems. So, I'm not a fan of this board making recommendations as to what system to put in anyway. The county knows what's best. And my question is just what size unit is it for how many bedrooms, because as you know, if it's too big, it's not going to work effectively. And if it's too small, it won't either. So.
Well, this would be the minimum size system because the minimum size is good for up to 4 bedrooms.
And my question last time was about if there are pumps involved, just to make sure if they've lost power, how would that affect the ability for them to be in the house if there's no pump to help the system along. But I don't know if you pursued that or whether it was necessary to ask about generator or not.
We would, I spoke with a homeowner about it. We would definitely install a generator.
Okay, good. Question.
The logistics of exactly where it would go, we don't have that yet, but for such a small house, it would be a very small generator. They're making them pretty small now. So I believe we have the space to put it here. If it can go across the street and if that physically works, then that's what I would propose, to put it on the other property as well.
Susanna, speaking of tanks, there's an oil tank on the property right now, which I'm going to assume that you're not going to be using that oil tank for the new house. Is that true?
That's true. That's actually right in, I don't know, in the existing conditions, you can see it's right here where the new house would be going.
Right. So your plans.
So that would be removed. Yes.
Okay.
That will be physically completely removed.
All right.
What is this house running, gas or oil?
Currently?
The new proposal. Currently, it's not running anything. I'll tell you that. I went to we had this conversation already.
I'm not sure that we've gotten that far as the heating system.
Because, putting an oil tank on this property, it's, if there's ever a disaster, you have the Roth tanks. That would be a smarter option if it was an oil system, but.
I can find that out. I'll speak with the architect and find out what the recommendations would be. I would assume we would do an above ground tank.
Well, is natural gas available on the street? I guess not. If you're going.
I don't think so.
Okay, that's too bad.
I don't think so. Yeah. So I would assume above ground tanks would be the appropriate thing at this site due to the sensitive nature.
One of the issues that I have, Susanna, which not everybody agrees with me, is the small retaining wall that you have there. To me, it appears like it is holding up part of the land mass. And if it were removed, my fear is that all that would slide down onto the shore there. And it might continue to do that. Do you still plan on removing all of that retaining wall?
We do. We had our engineer look at that. and assess it. We had the contractor go take a look at it and do some some shovel tests where he dug down, and he determined that the wall only goes at a maximum 7 to 12 inches below the grade. So it's not holding up very much at all. And based on the condition of the wall, the determination has been made, and I think it's pretty unanimous among our team, as well as in our conversations with Marty, that in the long term, leaving it there is more of a risk of causing erosion than removing it by hand. So it wouldn't take much more than a shovel to remove this. So if you remove it, you can revegetate in that location and, you know, around the area, smooth out the grade a little bit. And in the long run, it's a much more sustainable design to remove that wall.
So
If
you
it were
could-
deeper, that was our initial thought, was to keep it. We thought it was a much deeper, more substantial wall than it is. It's
So you-
basically a couple of cinder blocks with like a film of concrete poured over the top of it, you know, decades ago.
So you plan to use some plantings in that area?
Exactly. The revegetation plan covers everything around the property. There's 5 feet of gravel around the perimeter of the house as a walkway. There's a little wedge of lawn here. Everything else is revegetated. Even the patio area is sort of a makeshift stepping stone kind of patio with plantings in between the stones. And it's a pretty small area as well. But yeah,
Okay, I have another question.
Yes.
There's quite a bit of debris on the shoreline, and there's 2 other buildings on the property, one almost in the water and the other up a shed up top.
Yes,
And the dock, of course, is in poor repair.
correct.
And there's quite a bit of debris from the dock laying around on the shore. Do you have plans to clean that up?
Absolutely. Yeah. This boathouse is pre-1957. It's actually on the pre-existing CO for the property. That's to be removed. The existing shed is to be removed. And the dock, we've been planning all along to remove that and replace it with a new dock. But at one of our site meetings with staff, we looked at the actual slope in this area as opposed to right in front of the old house. And we determined that it would make a lot more sense to reconstruct the dock in the area that has a much more gradual slope here. So we're going to remove the existing dock. All of that will be cleaned up, removed from the site. The homeowners agreed to remove all the floating debris that's at the site, the flotsam and jetsam, and to reconstruct a new dock using non-treated wood and open grate decking. That's one of the things, my proposed mitigation sheet, my cheat sheet, so I make sure I remember to mention everything to you guys. As I mentioned, the IA, the fact that we're doing the parking across the street as well. As you know, the building department requires parking on site, determined by the number of bedrooms. So we would be required to have two parking places at this site. So I've spoken with the town engineer. They have no objection. I've spoken with the zoning clerk. We would need a variance and we would need an easement in order to put the parking across the street. So the parking would be across the street over here. I think it's easier to see on the survey. So the proposed off-street parking would be over here. It's actually a little spit of the parking of the driveway that's already existing on the site across the street. So there's plenty of room right here. They don't need it for their for this house on this property. A previous version of the
And
plan.
obviously, this would all be in a covenant in case the house changes owners.
Yeah, we would have to do an easement document from one property to the other to allow for the sanitary system and the parking area to exist on this property, as well as the water line. Our plan, if the health department will approve it, is to run the water line from across that property as well. The original application had the public water is not available in Fish Cove Road. It's on Old Fish Cove Road down here. So the original plan was to run the water line all the way across the property to get to the house. But now instead, we're going to run it from the property across the street. So yes, we would need an easement document to allow that to happen. And that way, if either property was sold and was no longer in the family, which we don't anticipate being the plan, but if that were to ever happen in the future, then it would still be legal. There wouldn't be any problems. It would be set and
What happened to
formalized.
the original water for the property?
The original one, it's coming from across the street.
You can't use that?
Well, that is our plan. The only thing is, I don't think it's health department approved to do it that way. It pre-exists the health department regulations. So what we're going to try to do is formalize that as the official location for our water service.
So I tell you what, I'm not a fan of running that red water line that's on the survey.
Oh, no, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. If for any reason they say, no, you can't do that, then what we'll have to do is extend the public water main from Fish Cove Road, Old Fish Cove Road, down the length of Fish Cove Road to the house. The only problem is that's going to cost $50,000 or more just to run the water line. So we're trying to avoid that by asking the health department for permission to do it from this property. So that'll be part of our variance application as well. So there's no, we're no longer proposing to run it through the property. Bad idea. Our two options, preferred option is to run it from the property across the street. Option number 2 would be to pay to extend the water main all the way down Fish Cove Road, which is very expensive. So we like to avoid that. But in no circumstance would it be going through the property. That was the original proposal, but that after looking at other alternatives, we've dismissed that as a proposal.
Susanna, I have a question in regard to the retaining wall. Part of what's acting as a retaining wall is part of the foundation for the house. There's a fairly large sheer wall right on the bluff. Does that also extend only about a foot or two?
This is the existing condition survey, and I think what you're talking about is this foundation wall that goes along.
Correct.
So that the existing house is right on the edge of the precipice there. There's a couple of big trees that are growing right there. This foundation wall is also only 7 to 12 inches below the surface. It's crumbling as well. So the idea would be to remove that by hand again.
There's actually a huge tree there that looks like it's dead. And it's ivy growing up into it and around it, and the trunk is hollow.
That's the tree that's in the foundation you're talking about. That's
Yeah.
a half
Yes,
a
it looks
tree.
like
Yeah.
that may have been part of the reason why the foundation failed.
Well, there's
Maybe-
another tree in between where it cuts in, where the mouse just was, where the hand was, right there.
That's the one I think Harry's talking about. This one right there.
No, he said the one with ivy that was hollowed out. That's to the left. That's to the left of your hand. I have a picture of it.
Okay. I have some pictures too. Let's see.
Okay. That
So
was
what?
taken quite a while ago.
This is 2003. I found this picture on the GIS website. So as recently as 2003, the house was in really good shape. And if you want the history of what's happened to the house in the last several years, the homeowner can go through that if it's important. I think the important thing as far as this application is concerned is that the house is not in great shape. It doesn't make any sense to keep the foundation or keep the existing structure. It's in bad shape. But fairly recently, while it was being maintained, it was in pretty good shape. Well, 2003 when this picture was taken. It doesn't take long for a 100-year-old house to fall into disrepair if it's not maintained. Just trying to see if I can find the picture along the foundation wall. Yeah, it's not great. I probably have a picture, but I don't have it in this file of the trees that you're talking about. There's one, I think it's this big one here, that's actually growing out of the foundation. The thought was that if it made sense to actually leave some of that foundation wall that's, merged with the tree and just leave it in place in order to protect the tree. Like it might actually cause more damage to remove that little section of wall. So it might make sense to leave that part of the wall, but the rest of it, it doesn't make any sense to leave it.
I think that the area where that tree is that's rotten and dead is by the wall that is actually wood. It looks like the concrete part of it has already disappeared.
Oh, maybe you're referring to this 32-inch one here?
Well, I'm looking at pictures that I took.
Okay.
So those are things you can determine at the time.
Yeah.
With the overriding understanding that you need the contractor, whoever's doing the work, needs to be very sensitive about opening up unvegetated areas that can erode. But I think you've done a good job in modifying this. Like George spoke, I was very concerned about the retaining wall. If in fact it is only 7 to 12 inches deep, then I'm not as concerned about it. And then it makes more sense to take it out because it is in pretty bad shape with cracks, very substantial cracks. And reducing the size of the house was a very good move. Now it's down to pretty close to the minimum size for zoning, I believe.
Right, the minimum size allowable by zoning is 800 square feet for a one-story house, which this is. The existing house is 832, so that's why we're sticking with 832. It makes it work. The house is as long and skinny as we can make it in order to maximize the setback from the bluff and the wetlands as well.
What's the porch made of?
What's the porch made of?
Mm-hmm.
It's a covered screen porch. I'm not sure I understand your question. It's roofed. It would be screened.
It's a roof. Do you have a picture of the proposal? Is it wood?
elevation?
Is it concrete? Does it have handrails because it's over 18 inches?
Yeah, it would definitely have a roof. It would be on a foundation. And it would have sort of a screened sides on 3 sides.
Can it be converted to living space down the road?
Not without a building permit.
Right. I think that
I mean-
porch is a little extreme.
Is that porch in addition to the 837 square feet?
Yes.
Yes. The 832 is the living space. I'm looking at I had the previous proposal up.
But
Yeah.
there's a slab or a foundation under that porch, or is it just wooden slats over dirt and it just happens to be screened in, so it's not really something that's all season. It's just a 3-season porch. But I mean, if it's got foundation around the base of it, so they can use it all year round, that's different than just being fair weather.
It wouldn't be a heated space. It wouldn't be enclosed. It would be just a screened porch.
Is there a foundation? Does the foundation extend over that porch, or does the foundation extend on the side of the porch?
Just timbers with wooden decking.
All right, we'll know the answer.
John, do you have an answer to that? I don't know.
You know, I'm not quite sure how far it goes, the foundation. But I think, you know, I understand the question. It's, you know, is this living space? No, not really. I mean, we've utilized this in our place in Canada. It's, you know, I'd say it's fair to say it's a good full 3 seasons. That's fair to say. I don't know what it will be like on the code, but I suspect it would be the same.
Do you think at the next meeting, you can get us a copy of the plans for the house to see if that foundation extends onto that porch
I
area?
think that's been even figured out yet, has it, John? I mean,
I'm not sure. No, I'm not sure that it has.
I mean,
It's a very sensitive area. I would think that'd be like the first thing that would be figured out was the foundation to see if you could fit it into that area. And with the amount of disturbance that's going to be going on to the land over there, I would think the foundation would be the first thing we'd be talking about, especially if Mr. Sherwood drew the architectural plans for the building, because he's going to have to know what he's building it on top of.
Yeah. I guess I would, let me just, you know, the first thing we had to do is figure out whether we could do this thing. And, you know, and I think the work that the team's done over the last couple of years, in the sensitivity to the challenges on the bluff and the way the house has been taken over by vegetation to some degree. And there's a whole story behind that, which we probably won't get to tell today because I don't want to spend much time on it. But I think it's a fair question. I know there's a foundation. I just don't know how far it goes over. And I'm not trying to be elusive there or untruthful. I don't know. Because if I did know, I would tell you.
When I look at this plan, it appears to me that the foundation does not go
That's
on.
what I was going to say.
That's why I'm asking.
Foundations in bold lines and the porches.
No, it may not. You know, but I'm not trying to be funny. We spent so much. I can't tell you how much time we spent on the size of the house, which was at one point 1274, is now 832, and that 1274 would have gone over that porch area a little further out, and then around the bedrooms, which are fairly small right now. And so, if you can imagine, you know, 1274 I think was the peak. And that included the screened-in porch. So that's why I can't answer that question honestly, because I don't know. I don't know what.
My worries about this project. Right now, in the condition it's in, it was a single family, you know, 1-story house.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking at a plan here, and you know, 832 feet. I'm glad that you knocked the plan size down. Once this goes through, you can always apply for an admin wetland permit to throw a 2nd story on this house. And those are the things that I start worrying about when I see this project, especially with that porch. So, I mean,
let me deal with that right now.
You don't want to block your view from across the road either.
We are not doing a 2-story house.
Right.
That was one of the things we looked at to keep the foundation smaller, so we could go up. And you know, there's a house like that in our neighborhood. You probably know the one. It looks terrible. It's so far, so high up. It's disgusting. You want the house. I want to keep this property. This whole thing is about my commitment to my mother and my grandfather about keeping the historic nature and the beauty of this. We're not subdividing it like another family member wanted to do. You know, they want to divide into 9 lots and optimize the value. I didn't want to do that. The cottage is a cottage. I don't want to put a house there. And, you know, we'll just have to prove that up. But I don't want a 2nd floor house, a 2nd floor there. It's disgusting. The property is supposed to work in conjunction with each other. You know, this is for future generations. I didn't mean to jump on you there, but I just, I don't want that. I want a small place. I want a small place.
I don't take anything personally. I like the back and forth. I don't like the size of this porch is one of my issues. Right?
What is the size of the porch?
It's 16 by 13. It's not big. It probably looks big because it's attached to a very small house.
Small house, right.
It's 13 by 16.
That's 200 square feet.
That's pretty small. And just to answer your question about why we don't know the details.
It's really not small for the footprint of the building envelope on this property. It's really not small. So it's all relative. And
yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Something that we have done in the past in situations like this, and one of our concerns, of course, is that there may be an application to convert that into living space. Sometimes you put a covenant on it that it cannot be converted to living space.
I
If you want
think
to do that, I don't really care, because we're not intending to do that, but,
We have to
I get
look
it.
beyond.
Worry
here.
about future.
Yeah, and
owner.
we're not, yeah, and I get the future owner thing. This been in the family for 100 years. The last 50 years, the last 35 years has been awful. Family squabbles, challenges, and I didn't want to get into any of this because we're videotaping this thing. And the disrepair of the houses that Michael, quite frankly, pointed out, actually the cottage. All 4 houses were in terrible shape. And we've restored 2 of them to their natural beauty, that were better than they were before, and not making them huge houses or anything, just doing a little bit of tweaking. And so this is being built for future generations, but not to build out other houses or add. There's plenty of houses there. We don't need, but it's a fair comment. You've seen that before. I get it. And if that's what we need to do, we'll do something like that.
I think
I'm not
a
worried about
covenant
it.
would be no problem. Just knowing how John and Bridget spend their time, they love their porch at their other home. And I think that the porch is very important to this project.
Well,
That's where they're going to spend a lot of time being outdoors, being in nature in a beautiful spot. So the porch is very important to the project.
yeah, we actually had more of them. I guess we were over, we're a little over the top there for part of it. When we had that bigger square footage house, we had porches on the other side too. So,
Yeah. The original proposal had a waterfront porch and a side porch in addition to the front porch.
over the top.
So we've
That's
cut
what-
it down
So
significantly.
it's 16 is the length of the house, and it's coming out another 13 feet, correct?
Right, the width of the house is 16 feet. And that's
I
fine.
mean, it can't be knocked down to a 4-foot deck, a 5-foot deck, 16.
Sure, you can knock anything down. I mean, if you like. I mean, and so I guess.
I'm saying that in terms of an alternative for the
Yeah.
size of that porch.
I know, we just chopped 9 feet off of the length of
I
the
went through the
house.
same thing, Suzanne. I live on a wetland property as well, and I've been before this board. As a property owner, I'm a big fan of being a property right advocate. I'm just thinking that I hear Marty's voice in my head, how a lot of applicants, and it has nothing to do with 325, but you've heard this statement before, where you should be privileged to live in an area and you should want to be a good steward for this area. We're talking about knocking down a house that basically should be condemned. Let's be honest. And building a new house over to the right, as we look at this map, which would be to the south. And it's a brand new house, a foundation, ground's being disturbed. We have major erosion over there. We have the big porch. I understand that we're going to put the septic across the road, but I brought the point that we would never allow a septic in front of the house behind you. We would ask that septic be in the back. So there's a lot of things going on here. And I think that's a giant porch. I'm glad you reduced the size of the house. I think that picture from 2003 was a well representative of what the house was in its glory day, and it was very nice, and it's a beautiful area. I think that porch needs to be reduced a little bit.
Why? But why, Michael? I'm just curious. And I'm not trying to be obnoxious.
Because when we talk about science and we talk about things being done to properties and the sizes of things, the porch adds surface area. So, if we do less to the property, we're better off. If we did nothing, we're much better off. And we want to reduce our net losses of wetland habitat for the town. It has, and that's in chapter 325. It's in the first paragraph. So I just think it's a giant porch for, that space. I mean, I think the house should be 20 feet wide at the maximum, and I think it should be 800 square feet. If that's the smallest house you could put on a lot, that's what I think it should be. We're talking about an 832 with a 208 square foot deck. I think that's 25% of the footprint of the house, right? If you have an 832 square foot house with a 208 square foot.
I'm listening. I'm not questioning this.
No,
feedback.
I'm trying to be clear because that you asked me.
I'm following you.
25
Yeah.
to make this decision. Personally, I don't think a house should ever be built on this
Well,
property.
and you made that clear.
Right, but that's not my decision. That's not my decision. You have the right to build on it, so we need a practicable alternative.
Yeah.
And I'm saying that I think you can you're asking for 13 feet out. I don't mind it running the same length of the house, but I think it should be smaller. And I think it still would be a quaint and beautiful property.
Yeah. All right. Good feedback. Okay.
Susanna,
Yes, George?
could you, I'm sorry, I missed it before. What's the dimension of the porch? What is it?
13 by 16.
Yeah,
What is
13
it?
by 16.
Check my math, George.
13 by 16?
Yes.
13 by 16.
13 by 13 is 390 plus 39.
276 or whatever it is, 270 or 200.
Yeah, I'm just trying to envision a room 30. I don't have a problem with Mr. Best's word that he's not going to go for a second floor. The other side, I am in agreement with you, Michael, that really there should not be a house here, but that's not our decision, okay?
No, it's not.
Oh,
But
there
that
is a
deck
house
doesn't
here.
have
There
to
is going to
be
be a house here.
The deck
The
doesn't
point
have to
I'm-
be
All right,
25%
the
of the house.
Michael, just a second, all right? I would imagine that Mr. Betts has other houses to live in, especially during the winter. So it's probably going to be more of a summer resort. And,
Right.
he's probably going to spend most of his time, the house itself is pretty small, probably going to be spending most of his time relaxing in the porch. Yes, Michael, I'm in agreement. I want to support you, but, we have to be fair to the homeowner as well. He's putting a house as small as he can possibly do it. And he's got to have a place to recreate a little bit. That's what being on the water is all about. At least he's not putting a deck extended over the bluff, I mean, it's,
We gotta look at things in the future, George, not for the present.
well,
Yeah.
I don't think,
Mr. Betts, would you be willing to diminish the porch a little bit?
Sure. We've already made it small. So I need to look at it. I can't answer it right now.
Right.
But sure, we do something like that. Sure.
And it would probably even be more in harmony with the smaller size of the porch. But I agree with Michael. I agree with George. It shouldn't be built on this property. I went and visited it also. But you do have a right. And I am glad also that you have diminished the size of it and gotten pretty close to the 800. At one point, I thought maybe you could put a second story on and have the base only 600, but you don't want that, and I understand that. But if you could diminish the porch a little bit, I think then I would be much more comfortable with it all.
Okay.
So we'll take a look at that, and we'll also talk to the architect about what kind of foundation he was envisioning for that. I mean, often when we're in this situation, when we know we have a very difficult site, it doesn't make sense for the architect right away to completely design the house, because that's a lot of work for them. And often we end up having to revise the house, and then that just costs the homeowner money to keep revising and revising for the architect to come up with the details. So at this point, we start with just a floor plan, a basic elevation to make sure everything works, and a footprint. And that's where we are right now. We have a basic floor plan. We have some elevations. They're very, very rough. And we can talk about what the foundation will look like for that porch area, what the walls will look at, get you some drawings so you can see exactly what it would be. It can be covenanted to not be enclosed ever.
We'll cover the whole house. I mean, I know people are saying, well, when you sell in the future, we don't have plans for that. Of course, you can never predict the future. I just want to say one thing real quick here. So we have cut the porches down. We've cut the porch. So we ourselves, actually with our, I would say our leader to some degree, Mr. Marty, who has been on the size of the house consistently. And let me tell you, this guy's done fantastic work for us. He's a great collaborator. He's really, one of the things I think you guys are supposed to do is educate people like me. And he's been a good educator. We've taken the porches out, I think through his continuous feedback. The size of the house has gone from 12 something to 8 something. And it is the porch, and the porch went down, that one got smaller, the other two went away completely. So I understand what you're saying, and what you're saying is it's not enough. We probably should have come in with a bigger plan, you know, but and so we'll take a serious look at it. I'm not trying to be, but Marty, I just want to at this moment recognize you, because he's been there since 2017, and this has been a challenging project, and I know several of you feel that it should be rebuilt. The fact that we can, if we can get to the fact that we can, we stay with the original size, which is what we're talking about here, and then recognize all the work that they have done to remove some of the factors. I mean, septic across the street, parking across the street, I think those things, and get rid of the boathouse in that area in the front. And you know, offline, I'd love to talk to you about it, to a couple of guys, just how we got here. I mean, it's not because of a neglect. If you saw the houses across the street, you know what we're capable of. And this is what we're trying to do here. And Marty's been instrumental in terms of helping us get through this thing. And he's been what would you say, Susanna, nonstop in the guiding of the size of the house. And just so you guys know, we've been talking about it all along the way. And I'm not trying to push back. I'm just saying we have been doing it.
So I don't know, you can see my screen, right? I took the time to look at the original proposal and the square footage. The original house was 1136 with 380 square feet of porches. Our current proposal is 382 square feet, which equals to the existing house, and 232 feet of total porches. That includes a little front porch for entry. Previous submissions were 1221 and 276 square feet of porch. And our last, the one 2 weeks ago, 979 square feet with 240 square feet of porches. So we've reduced the front porch since last week or last meeting. And we've come down and down and down and down on the house size. So I had those numbers in front of me. So I just wanted to put those out there so you can see what we've done. And I did just want to go through very quickly the things that we've done on the site, because I did take the time to put together this presentation. I've mentioned the septic and the parking across the street, revegetation of all of the disturbed area, with the exception of just a 5-foot wide gravel path around the house and a little tiny wedge of grass of 10 feet wide on the south side of the house. On the property of over half an acre, we're only disturbing about 1,600 square feet of land, which is already disturbed. We're not disturbing any new portions of the property. We're taking down the house and we're putting the new house in an area that's already, for the most part, cleared. There's one tree that's right smack in the middle of the cleared area, which unfortunately will be lost. But we've gone to great extents to redesign the project so that that's the only tree that would have to come down. In addition to designing around the trees, a tree protection plan will be in place with additional fencing around each tree to protect it during construction. That's in addition to the project limiting fence. So they would put up the project limiting fence, they would demolish the existing house, and then they would put up additional fencing to protect the trees during construction. I mentioned the existing retaining wall along the top of the bluff would be removed by hand. Is that,
What
whoops.
about a buffer?
The buffer covers the entire property with the exception of the house and the 5 feet/10 feet around it. Let me pull the survey
You
back
don't
up.
get any more into wetlands than this property. And while it is a half acre, there is not a half acre of buildable space. This project is clearly maximized to what can be built in that area. So
if you look at the whole property, this is all wooded.
wetlands.
Well, this is wetland. It's all adjacent to wetlands, and this is all wetlands here. But all of this hatched area, this is existing wooded land that would not be touched. So I'm zooming in on this tiny area because that's
What's
where.
that line? What's that line on in that area right there? Right
This
there.
line?
Yeah, that line. Is that the bluff face? Where the property dives down 20
I'd have to look at the survey.
Oh, I'm trying to see myself.
It's not like
Like
it's flat level land is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's a bluff that drops down and has a hard edge to it. So it seems like no one has an issue with the size of the house, right? I'm the only one that's asking for you to reduce the deck. It sounds like you'd be willing to do that. We can close this hearing right now with an approved plan, it sounds like. But, you know, it's not a half acre of buildable space. This is a wetland property on a bluff that's totally caved in, and the house that was there was in disrepair, should be condemned, and has fallen off the cliff face also. I'm glad that you did all the things that you did. I think it's a great plan. What you have now at the 832, I just think that deck needs to be reduced. I have a giant property, and I had the issues with that big at my house.
But Michael, John Betts just said he would look into seeing if he, about reducing it.
He said he seemed, that's what I said. He seemed like he had no issue reducing the size of the deck. That's why I'm saying it looks like we can close this hearing and not continue with a debate. It sounds like everybody was fine at 832, and I'm asking for a reduced deck. I think there's probably a couple other board members that would want it. George didn't, but if the deck wasn't reduced, I would definitely be a no vote. I'm just being honest with you. I'm only 1 out of 7.
I want to wrap this up a little bit, but we've done a lot of talking. I usually ask Marty to speak before now, but I haven't had a chance to speak very much. But I do want to ask Marty if you have comments you'd like to make on this application.
Yeah, good evening, Marty Shea, Chief Environmental Analyst for the town. I'll just offer some brief comments. As this board knows, and as Mr. Betts indicated, and as I testified at the last hearing, I have been working steadily on revised plans for this site since the summer of 2017. And I think the applicant is responding well to my recommendations. Just some points of clarification with regards to the porch and constructing a second story on the house. Those activities would not be eligible for an administrative wetland permit. If a future owner, those activities, number one, would require wetland permits. And if future owners sought to do that, they would have to make application to the Conservation Board. And the reason for that is that the setbacks are less than required by the administrative wetland permit requirements. With regards to the foundation, as the applicant knows, I spent a lot of time looking at the foundation. One of my earliest concerns were trees that were growing into the foundation. And as was offered by the applicant, I had also recommended that if needed, sections of the old foundation should be left in place in order to protect those existing trees. So one of the primary goals from the start of the application has been to protect the trees. Lastly, again, I looked, I've probably been to the site on 4 occasions. Every time I looked at the foundation and that low retaining wall, because that was one of my earliest concerns. I indicated that we needed to have an engineer to look at that, which they did, in order to confirm that those walls could be removed. Based on my observations, with the exception of perhaps some partial needed protection for one of those trees, the existing foundation walls and that low retaining wall can be removed, followed by revegetation without any ill effect to the slope or erosion of soils. Obviously, if this project is permitted, it is the type of project that my office is going to monitor very closely. It is a case where after the issuance of the permit, if authorized, my office will continue to work with the applicant. I can also offer, consistent with the recommendation of at least one board member, I am happy to work with the applicant to reduce the porch area. And lastly, I did have an opportunity to look at the latest site plan. I worked very closely with the applicant on the native revegetation and tree protection aspects of that plan, as well as with regards to maximizing buffering. All those areas will be covenanted. So while any plan perhaps needs some minor final refinements, the plan based upon my review is a good plan for this site. So in summary, if the board so wishes, I'm happy to work with the applicant on further reduction of the porch area. We'll address any generator needs for the IA. Will ensure that there's a detailed demolition and construction methodology to make sure that the removal of the foundation and retaining walls does not result in adverse impacts. And as I have already expressed to the applicant, I will ensure that all structures, all the old structures, inclusive of the stairs, remnants, and any debris along the shoreline and any litter be removed at the site, which the applicant has agreed to. Thank you.
Thank you, Marty. We are honing in on this. I think we're very close to closing the hearing and approving this project. The one primary task left is for a reduction in the porch area. It would be nice to do that right now, but I think it's best if we do adjourn. John has indicated he wants to give some thought to it. There's nothing like some thought before a project instead of making a mistake. It's much easier to erase a line and take down a wall. So I don't anticipate that this is going to take very much time for discussion when we do this again. But I would recommend that we adjourn this hearing to another date. Susanna, do you have a preference?
When's the next meeting?
Next meeting is May 12th.
That sounds good to me. If there's space for us on that agenda, I think we can have that.
We have
hammered
3
out.
hearings there now. One tends to be adjourned a lot, but I believe we sent them a letter indicating
Yeah.
that time to
Fish or cut bait.
fish or cut bait.
Yes,
So-
we did.
It seems to me we could have a very short discussion on that day with this application. We don't need to talk about anything else except reduction in size of the porch.
And
Mr. Chair,
just clarifying whether the foundation extends, I would prefer that it doesn't, have a masonry foundation underneath that porch.
We will speak with the architect and come up with some more details
Yeah.
there for you as well.
And if you do reduce the size of the porch, I would probably start from the seaward side. not necessarily left to right, but start reducing from the
From the
seaward side.
wetlands.
Yeah, just to increase the setback. That would make me feel better
Yeah,
than the other way.
good point.
Me personally.
That works architecturally. That
Good
does
point.
seem to make sense.
Good point. But could I ask a question, Mr. Chair? Is there a way to, because we're talking about reducing the size of the porch. I think we can all agree on that. What the definition of reduction is. I don't want to get into, quabbles over that. So is there a way to gather some thoughts or information from your team there on that? And I want to do it in a collaborative way, but I'm trying to.
Sure.
Well, start with your make or break point, and then start with a make or break point. What is the point at which you can't accept anything smaller, and work from there? If you just try to take off a little bit and come back to us and we're just chipping away, we're just going to keep adjourning.
Yeah, no, I understand. That's what I'm trying to avoid.
Michael, you indicated, are you thinking about any numbers or any range of numbers?
No, I don't have any yet in my head.
We should all sleep on it.
Tom just killed it because Tom said take the deck seaward. I was fine with the deck being 16 feet long, the same size as the house. I just wanted it not 10 feet wide. I wanted it knocked down a little bit, like a nice little front, like a little side covered porch where you could put 2 chairs, a little table. Then Tom swooped in. Tom said, no, take it seaward. So now you have this little tiny square on the west corner of the house, I think Tom said. Right, Tom?
No, I was just saying, start reducing from the seaward side so that you're increasing your setback.
Let us take it away. Let us take it away. We got it.
I want to get input from the architect, Tom, because I'm afraid that might look really odd. I hesitate to do any designing. I leave that to the architects, and we will.
That's what David's for.
Yeah.
We get the message. Good feedback. Really good feedback.
I need to ask if there's anyone in the public who'd like to speak in this application. Charlie, does anybody have their hand up?
If you wish to speak, just raise your hand. I see no hands.
Is there a motion to adjourn this to May 12th?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Harry, aye. Ann?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Jerry?
Aye.
Sunshine?
Aye.
Thank you all. Made good progress.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Betts.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate the feedback.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Susanna.
You're welcome. Thank you, guys.
The next application is A020038 Diane Ardolino.
Mr. Chairman, we do have affidavits of posting and mailing. They are in accordance with the town code, and the board does have jurisdiction to open the hearing.
Thank you. Who is likely to be presenting this application?
Diana Ardolino.
Okay. I don't see it. I don't see it.
What we can do
Take the next
is,
one out of order.
yeah, let's
Adeline
just move down. and then-
Wilson.
Yeah, the last one was over an hour. We got to keep on track.
Yeah.
I
If-
got a hand. I have a hand now. Donna. Okay. All right.
We're seeing some activity.
She's coming.
Where's the hand?
Isn't it little dots? Go up there. They're little dots. Hit that.
Hello?
Hello.
Hello.
Can I speak?
Sorry.
Okay, I see Donna. Donna, are you here for this application?
No, this is my I'm sorry, my name is Jesse and this is my mother, Donna. We live in 186 Point Road.
I don't see Diane on.
And I'm trying to get, okay.
We're not Diane, but like before you guys move on, we just want, because we gotten like notices about what's going on.
This is like the fourth time or the third time.
Okay,
and-
we're gonna, at this point, we're not gonna discuss this yet. I'm looking to see who is gonna present this application.
That's Diane Audelino. She does not have an agent.
Okay.
I don't have her.
Dial in. Diane, she's trying to dial in, so let me just help her.
Okay. I'm gonna just put your video off until your case is up. No one yet.
Yeah, Diane, it's Marty. Do you have the ID and passcode? Yeah, no, Charles will address that. I think he's trying to get you in right now. All right, so we're just waiting right now. Okay. Okay. All right, thank you. Charles, Diane, I just called Diane. She's waiting to get in. She's muted right now.
Well, she should. If she's already in, she can just unmute.
I'll call her again.
She's already in.
We take the withdrawal.
So
you know Diane though.
Can we do the withdrawal while we wait?
Diane, you need to unmute yourself. There's a mute.
What's the name? What's the name of the computer?
Line for it. You need to click on that to unmute yourself. Okay. Charles, Diane is unmuted on her side now.
Yeah, but okay, I don't know the name of her computer, so I don't know if she's listed under. There is no Diane.
Yeah, is there? Are you listed under a different name, Diane? Or are you down as Diane on your computer? So okay, so you only have access by phone.
Yeah, there's no phone in.
Okay, Charles, she doesn't have access by computer. She only has.
That's fine, but I don't see a phone. I don't see a phone number.
Her phone number is 631.
There is no phone. There is no phone on.
Talking to Marty.
Yeah, I have her on the phone right now.
So let her talk on your. Put her on speaker and talk that way.
Okay. All right, speak, Diane.
Hi, hello.
We can hear you.
Okay, perfect. So everybody can hear me. I can go ahead and start talking.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm new to this, so I'm sorry in advance. But I guess we are all together to review the road plan for 160 Point Road in Flanders. Hopefully everybody has a copy of it in front of you. I
We
submitted
do.
it to the Conservation Board for review. Is that accurate? Does everyone have a copy of the plan for the road? It's going to be pretty hard to follow along if you guys aren't looking at it.
Diane, Karina is going to share the plan with the board. Just give her a couple minutes. I'll let you know when it's ready.
Perfect.
Karina, how's it going?
It says that I'm sharing my screen right now.
You are.
I am?
Yeah, but we
You
don't.
just see your
file.
file directory.
We just see your hard drive.
Okay, hold on. Let me.
Okay.
All right.
Bingo.
Diane, she has the plan up that you recently hand marked.
Okay, perfect. So as we're coming down Point Road, originally the Highway Department had requested, because this road is narrow, it's a private road, they had requested 3 pull-offs that are 8 feet wide by 50 feet long in order to allow emergency vehicles or even secondary cars to pass along each other for emergency reasons. We had talked to the Highway Department about that, and they said that we could go with 2 of those instead of 3 down the road. You're coming up the road 750 feet to the proposed new house at 160 Point Road. When looking at this with Marty, if you're coming down the road to the east, originally all of these proposed pull-offs were on the south side of the road, which is closer to the wetlands. We decided, or we had agreed, for the first pull-off coming down the road to shift that to the north side underneath a tree. There's a large tree on the road there that would mitigate the clearing and the grading and the disturbance to the wetland. So for the first pull-off, we would propose that area. And hopefully you guys can see that down the road going east on the north side.
Okay.
As far as, sorry, is somebody trying to talk?
Is that the extent of this application, a road reconstruction?
I'm sorry, what?
Is that the extent of this application, a road reconstruction?
Yes, but not for the entire road, just for pull-offs, if you will.
And you want to do how many pull-offs?
3.
Okay.
Yeah. Originally it was 3, and then the Highway Department said they would be okay with 2.
Okay.
So we want to do 1 right now, as proposed for the plan that you guys are looking at on the north side, underneath the tree, which mitigates taking down and disturbing wetlands across the street on the south side of the road. And then further up the road, we want to do another one, which extends my driveway, if you will. There's already a shoulder to the neighboring house, which is right next to the proposed property. And what I'd like to do is just continue that shoulder past my driveway, either another 30 feet or another 50 feet. 1, because there's already a shoulder and it makes sense to continue it, and 2, because it's furthest from the wetlands and there's hardly any clearing, there's no wetlands disturbance, there's no tree removal, there's nothing additional in those 2 in that area. So that was the proposal.
Okay. Thank you. Marty, do you have questions? Do you have comments?
Yes, Marty Shea, Chief Environmental Analyst for the town. There is a preliminary advisory report on file dated February 5, 2021. Just to give the board a little bit of history, you had recently issued a Conservation Board permit in order to allow for construction of a single-family residence on a vacant wooded lot on the north side of the road. The road is a narrow earthen private road. It's only about 12 feet in width. As indicated by Diane, the road runs through an environmentally sensitive area where there are significant wetlands, and there is significant woodlands. There are some cottages, and there is also extensive preserved land. When you file for permits to build a house on a vacant land on a private road, you're required to make application to the town's road review committee. And essentially what the committee looks at is the conditions of the existing road and makes recommendations and sets requirements with regards to what types of improvements need to be made to that road in order to ensure safe access, particularly by emergency vehicles. Because the road is hemmed in by natural vegetation and wetlands, and the road is narrow, rather than seek to expand the width of the road, the road review committee had asked that these pull-off areas be created in the road shoulder at various locations in order to allow for two-way traffic. Actually, initially, the road review committee had asked that 4 pull-off areas be created. That was soon reduced to 3. So an initial plan was put forward, which would entail clearing and filling of wetlands in order to construct the 3 pull-off areas. So I had advised the applicant of the need to look at possible alternative locations for those pull-offs. In the interest of preserving existing vegetation, avoiding the wetlands, and avoiding the need to fill. This is an area that's vulnerable to flooding during significant storm events. It's an area where we have great biodiversity and wildlife. So again, it has great sensitivity with regards to the potential for adverse impacts. In looking at the existing roadway, I provided a sketch to the applicant, initially consistent with the road review requirement for as many as 3 pull-off areas as described. I found an area on the north side of the road where a pull-off could be created without any clearing of natural vegetation on dry land, thereby avoiding the wetlands. I then looked at the potential to create one of the pull-off areas in front of the vacant lot, which Diane is going to develop. And then I looked at other existing shoulder areas adjacent to homes or in upland areas on the opposite side of the road. Diane took my sketch, went back to the road review committee, the consequence of which is now that the committee seems like they'd be okay with only two pull-off areas. The first one, as recommended by me, on the northerly upland side of the road, closer to the improved cul-de-sac of Point Road and the town road portions. And the second one in front of Diane's future residence, or just on the opposite side of the road. We had considered whether or not if a shoulder pull-off was graded at Diane's lot, whether or not the existing shoulder on the adjacent residentially developed lot could be used as part of that. And then in finalizing the rough sketches, it seemed best to keep that second pull-off area wholly in front of Diane's lot. It will necessitate some minor clearing of vegetation. A couple small trees would need to be removed. It will require some grading, but the drive, the 14-foot wide drive entry would serve as part of that pull-off area, thereby taking advantage of an area that has already been authorized for drive construction. That all being said, the project still is of some concern because of the sensitivity of the area. The road review committee has also asked that stone be placed on the road, that a subbase of stone be placed, and then additional gravel on top of that, which would increase the elevation of the road by about 5 to 6 inches initially when that gravel is placed. That can have some impact because this is an area where you'll find terrapin, and sometimes there can be an issue with terrapins finding raised, improved sand and stone roads as preferred sites for nesting, with obviously some consequence if indeed the nests are dug in that higher banked road. So we are looking to reduce the amount of gravel and crowning that would actually occur on that road. And of course, you know, the higher the crown, the higher the elevation of the road, the more you have to shoulder it off. And the shoulders would be created now using mulched wood chips, which will somewhat minimize the impacts. The road review committee also requires vertical clearance for emergency vehicles. So that means that there are some overhanging tree branches which would need to be pruned in order so you have that 14-foot vertical clearance. And there is some vegetation along the sides of the road that would need to be trimmed back as well. You know, a lot of the concern that I have with a project such as this is The actual is with regards to the actual methodology in terms of how it's done. There have been some issues related to the early clearing and tree cutting at Diane's lot. There have been some incursions into the adjacent town-owned nature preserve. The wetland permit that the board had issued was, of course, conditioned upon creating wetland preservation areas and natural buffer areas. About 5 to 6 trees were inadvertently cut within that designated buffer zone and or within the edge of the town nature preserve. And I did have an opportunity to get out there today and notice that a very large oak was just cut within the last couple of weeks on the town nature preserve. There has also been an issue out there with the applicant stockpiling firewood on the town nature preserve. The town land is wooded, and the applicant has been stockpiling firewood on town property. I had asked the applicant as far back as February to remove that firewood. It's only partially been removed. There was a kayak being stored there that finally has been taken off the town land. There's still a wheelbarrow there. And as indicated, a tree was just cut in the last couple of weeks on the adjacent town land. So, this is the type of project where if the improvements are essential in order to meet the town's vehicular and emergency safety requirements, it will need to be done, but it needs to be done very cautiously, and everything has to be staked out by a licensed surveyor with project limiting fences installed. Diane will have to work very closely with me when the road pull-offs are created and the stone is placed, as well as when she completes the tree cutting on a property and commences construction of a home in order to avoid adverse impacts. The board has received quite a number of letters of concern regarding these road improvements from those who own homes along Point Road. They also are concerned about the fragility of this land and then the possibility for adverse impacts to flooding patterns, to wetlands, to wildlife. And those are real concerns when you're working in an area like this. So, at this time, we only have a rough sketch in terms of an alternative plan. I think we've come a long way since the initial plan was proposed. And I think we're very close to refining the plan in a manner that might be acceptable. But, obviously, the sketched drawing will all need to be shown on a site plan. And, we need to, my office will need, both my office and the applicant will need to stay in constant communication with the neighbors, not only to make them aware of what's going on out there, but to make sure the work results in no issues and no encroachments on their property. So I know we have some neighbors that would like to speak at the hearing. tonight. So perhaps you want to give them an opportunity to speak, and then I'm happy to address any questions or issues that are raised. Thank you.
Yes, we're going to invite the neighbors to speak soon. Marty, I've got a question for you to start with. Would you describe the surface of that private road right now?
The road is earthen. It's not very compacted. It's sandy. There are spots where water ponds. The road would need to be graded a little bit because the surface is uneven prior to the placement of stone. As indicated on the drawing, you do have wetlands that extend right up to the road and wetlands that cross the road. So portions of the road are actually within wetland to flooding. So even with the road improvements, of course, an area like this is always going to be vulnerable to flooding. So that's been acknowledged. The main concern on part of the town's road review committee is to ensure that there's good pass and repass for emergency vehicles and the residents on the road. As I indicated, there is a very extensive area that's been put in preservation along this road. This may be the last house that's being built on the road, and you only have about a half a dozen homes on this road. So the initial stretch goes through wetlands and woodlands until you come to rather small to modest cottages before you get to the cul-de-sac at the end where there's a larger home. So it's kind of a rural road that is vulnerable to flooding. So any improvement need to be done in a way that's sensitive to protecting the natural ecosystem.
And what is the purpose of adding gravel, which I presume from the testimony is only in those two places for the turnoffs?
And Diane can speak to this as well with regards to any comments that the road review committee offered. But the intent is to give the road stability and traction so that the road is not going to be rutted. You're not going to be mired in mud. You'll have a stable surface to drive on. That makes the road more accessible for emergency vehicles and for residents who live on this road.
So your testimony said that one of the negative impacts of adding gravel is the elevation, which could affect terrapin turtles. Some of the letters indicated that negative impacts would elevate the road and cause increased flooding on adjoining properties. Could both of those be mitigated if the areas where the gravel is to be added was dug out to the 5 or 6 inches of gravel that's going to be added so that we end up with traction at the same grade that it is now?
Yeah, the potential issue with that is that if you drop the grade, you're only going to increase the vulnerability of the road to flooding. So the road review committee is not asking that any sand or soil fill be placed, only that stone be placed. So we would work to minimize the amount of stone as much as possible. Just to give you an example of why I'm concerned about possible impacts to Diamondback Terrapins. We have this issue on Dune Road with the trustee roads that go down to the Bayside. when those portions of the roads that are a little bit higher because it's surrounded by wet ground, those higher road areas attract terrapins who would leave their nest. And then, last year I had to work with the trustees and the Bay Constables to try and protect those nesting areas, which, obviously you would have no ability to do in this case because this road is needed to access homes. But what the Terrapins do is they like dry, sandy, sunny, gravelly soil. That's perfect nesting ground. So if we, we can look at the option of regrading in a manner so no portions of that road are excessively high. And then we can also look to reduce the gravel placement so there's no potential issues to turtles. Another reason to keep the road as level as possible is, some of those turtles will cross the road to go to upland areas on the opposite side of the road to nest as well. So, it's a challenging issue with some of these, earthen roads in marshland areas. But I think if we try and address the need for emergency access and stability without creating in a natural berm, high sandy, stony road that would attract terrapins to nest, I think that'll lessen adverse impacts.
Thank you. Any questions by the board?
How is this road deeded to the property owner? Because when I look at this, I see one road on Point Road, and the property owner doesn't even have any access to their property that says deeded. How is it deeded to them?
My recollection, and perhaps Diane or Kelly can speak to this, is that this is a deeded access road, meaning that the rights to use an access road and access the road are described by the individual property deeds.
So there's more than 5 lots that could be built on with one roadway, which normally I thought that the road would have to be 18 feet wide, and no land can be landlocked. She's got to get to a property, and how horrible is it to have to drive through a rutted dirt road to get to your property? What Harry said was, most driveways that are put in have to get put with like a crushed concrete base, and then gravel's put on top of it. And digging it down to bare earth gives it a sturdier platform than just filling in rut holes. And keeping it level would give terrapin turtles the way to traverse across, and by using maybe bluestone, like 3/4 inch, they wouldn't like that as much as a gravelly. Is there a better substrate that they can use? I mean, the person has to get to their house. I mean, there's 6 lots over here, and it just seems kind of crazy. You want to get an ambulance down there, you want to get a fire truck down there, and pull-offs. What is everyone gonna be backing up, driving into the wetlands because they're bumping into each other when someone's coming down the roadway?
Well, there's not a lot of travel on this road, and there's very few homes. And yeah, you either, when I've encountered cars on this road, you just gotta kind of hug the shoulder, or in a few spots you may have to back up a little bit because it's a private road. It doesn't have to meet the standards for town roads. So it does not, the road width will stand between 12 and 14 feet, which is essentially town country road specs. So the engineering office has determined that the road does not need to be widened, but that its surface needs to be stabilized, and there need to be these pull-off areas in order to allow for traffic in both ways. So I will say the engineering office, in working with them, is acknowledging the area's sensitivity and the need to avoid impacts to wetlands, and is trying to be as flexible as they can. So yes, the underlying goal is to ensure safe access for those residents who own homes, in order to allow, and also to allow for emergency vehicle access.
When was this road put in? Prior to 93, or was this road?
Yeah, this road has been there for many years. I can bring up.
Separates the wetlands from the houses?
Well, there's wetlands on both sides of the road.
Can they go north on that road and just make the road wider if they made it to the north and not to the south? Wouldn't that?
You have wetlands on both sides of the road. So
right. I'm just saying, houses are being put in anyway, so wouldn't it make more sense to just widen the road to the north?
Well, this may be the last house that's built. Perhaps Karina, you could show an aerial photograph so the board can see the existing conditions.
I have it pulled up on my computer.
And you know, the homes that are there, mostly second home cottages that were built many years ago. The road was cut many years ago as well. You know, I can try and bring up some aerial photographs to see what the history of that road cut is.
Got to get to your house.
Exactly. So yeah, I mean, everyone recognized that. We're all trying to work together to minimize environmental impacts as much as possible.
Okay, is there someone in the public who'd like to speak on this application?
I don't see any hands.
Hello?
We've got Donna.
Hello, do you hear me? Do you hear us?
I hear you.
Yeah, sorry, let me turn on the video. Yes. So we live like at the end of that road, 186 Point Road.
We're the house at the cul-de-sac. I'll talk.
Okay.
Okay. So my question is this.
And just your name for the record, please.
Donna R. Goodell.
Thank you.
All right. My question is who is going to foot this bill? Because I keep hearing different things. I keep hearing users' rights. 17 years ago, the town of Southampton told me that I own this road. And for 17 years, my husband and I have been picking up and fixing this road every year. Now, once or twice, once, the other homeowners that were here 15 years ago helped fix the road once. So my question is, now I'm hearing that they have rights to use the road. They also have rights to help fix the road, I'm assuming. And I'm assuming, my question is several. I want to know who owns the right, who owns this road, because she was told that she owned the road. So I need clarification. I really do.
That was the question that Michael asked also. And I don't know if our record shows the ownership.
As far as the records that I've seen, we do not have anything establishing who owns the road. We do have deeds showing that property owners abutting the road have a right of way. So in their deed, they have a deeded 50-foot right of way over Point Road.
50 foot. So there's supposed to be a 50-foot road there. The applicant is trying to put a road in, and everyone's telling us she could just put pull-offs. And Mrs. Goodall lives at the end of this road, and the applicant lives closer to where it comes off of that bottom Point Road at the bottom. So I would assume that the applicant should be able to do her road up to the house, and any damage, I would think that she would make it in good condition, right?
Yeah, that's generally correct. The applicant is responsible for making improvements from the town paved road essentially up to her lot, which you see outlined in red. Diane, correct me if I'm wrong, but she's not being asked to make any improvements on the existing road beyond her lot.
We are not being asked to make any improvement beyond, but of course, as a courtesy, if we were to decide that we wanted to put 6 inches of gravel over the road, that would be brought all the way up to the end, just as a courtesy. And I believe Kelly, the town attorney, had stated, yes, when she looked into it for the covenant that we got on the Conservation Board town approval, that we had a right of way as owners on the road, but the road was not owned by us. It was owned by town and DC and other municipalities. It was not owned. We only had a right of way on the road.
Oh, now she has a right of way.
That's correct. There is a deeded right of way. As far as who actually owns the road, it actually is unclear. A lot of times with these private roads that were created a long time ago and they're not shown on subdivision maps, it's unclear who actually owns the road. A title company would have to do a search and go back to actually find out who the owners are. But as I said, there are deeded rights, a right of way, a 50-foot right of way over the road.
Miss Goodall, I have a question for you.
Yes.
On your deed that you have, does it mention the description of this road on it?
I don't have
ownership.
My husband died a year ago. He's the one who would have the questions to all of that. But here's what I'm clearly not understanding. We were there in town hall when they had everything in front of us and told us we clearly own that road because we went in to have things repaired, to discuss having the road repaired. And they totally it was us. So what I want to understand, we've been repairing the road. I don't have a complaint about that. All right. This new what she is doing, I don't think nothing should be done until we establish who has ownership, because I see this as messy down the road. How are you going to do something when nobody is clear who owns it?
I have a property very similar to you, Miss Goodall. It's almost the exact same thing. So I feel for you, and I agree. I think that, number one, I think everyone has a right to access their property. If this says that there was a 50-foot roadway here, I think it should be a 50-foot roadway. So that everyone can access their lots, and Ms. Goodall wouldn't be inconvenienced by new lots being put in and having to drive in reverse all the way to her house till that car gets to their driveway. I think emergency vehicles need to get on these properties as well. Gravel to me is always the best way to go with a crushed stone base, in an area like this without oil on top of it. but I'd like to see, see some deeds.
Well, as far, I have Miss Goodale's deed right here. This is the last deed that I see of record according to the town GIS records. And so that it has a property description, and then at the end, it has together with a certain right of way, 50 feet in width, running easterly from Point Road to the above described premises, the center line of which is particularly bounded and described as follows. And then it has the meets and bounds of the right of way. So it's a right of way.
So it's a right of way. So she doesn't, so they all have a right of way on this road. So it's probably conjoined amongst all of them. They all own the road. Should be a 50-foot wide road.
I should just indicate.
I
for the,
appreciate somebody finally clarifying that.
um,
Thank you.
Yeah,
I just wanted to indicate for the record that currently there are only 4 houses on this road. Diane's house will be the 5th and last house that will be built on this road. Everything else has already been purchased and preserved by the town and Suffolk County. So, there aren't other homes that will be built in addition to our home. Our home is the last home.
That's great.
And if I can just add on to that, Marty, I just wanted to also let you guys know that 2 out of the 4 cottages right now are only summer cottages. They can't be winter. In the winter, they're not designed for that. They're only summer cottages. They get boarded up and shut down for the winter.
Well, that matters. It's a 50-foot. It's a 50-foot wide road that should be a 50-foot wide road, no matter what houses are being, what they're.
I'm highlighting that there's a very minimum traffic going down the road.
It's Mike, it's a 50-foot right of way. That doesn't mean that a 50-foot wide road needs to be constructed. This is a private road, and the minimum standard for engineering is typically 14 feet wide. A 14-foot wide road with pull-off areas will be sufficient to allow for access to these homes and also to allow for emergency access.
I don't know. Is Kelly, for roadways, if you have more than one residence, isn't the town's roadway requisite for multiple homes over, I think it's over 3, isn't it 18 feet?
This is a private road.
Oh, so they could do.
Right, so it can be less than the town-owned roads.
Could be less.
Mhm.
But it could be
Michael,
50
keep in mind, Michael, there are a lot of roads that have 20, 30, 40, 50 feet, but that's not the paved area of the road. With 4 houses, that's a glorified driveway. There are plenty of flag lots with that many of houses off it. So it's really not necessary to change land use to make a glorified road for so few people. It's much better off to be natural, but there needs to be enough area for a car to comfortably drive down there and for emergency vehicles.
I agree. Nobody wants to live on a road and have to go in reverse or make it.
No, but
just Goodall doesn't have to be inconvenienced with our new neighbors. If it could be 50 and it could be 14 or 18, why can't, I mean, it just seems like the road should be a little wider so 2 cars can get by.
But the opportunity for two-way traffic is being provided by creating these pull-off areas. You can actually right now, if you're driving down that road and you encounter another car for virtually the full length of that road, you can hug the shoulder and that car can get by. But they want to make sure the road width meets the minimum emergency vehicle access widths. Again, the road is hemmed in by preserved land, by fragile wetlands. So it's not an area where you would look to significantly expand that road width unless absolutely necessary, because that would result in adverse wetland impacts.
Right, so let's figure out the best way to get everybody so they're not banging into each other's side view mirrors.
Just to add on that as well, as you go down the road, the first cottage on that road, which is going to be west of the proposed house, already has an 8 by 50 shoulder. And then when you go past the proposed house, there's a vacant lot that's town owned. And the next cottage, they also have that same shoulder, the 8 by 50 shoulder. So you can clearly pass with 2 vehicles in front of anyone's house, except for mine, which we propose creating the same shoulder. So really only half the road, if you will, 400 feet, 450 feet, is where you had trouble with 2 vehicles. And there are sections, like Marty said, that you can pass if you just pull over a little bit, 2 vehicles can pass. So you're not ever really backing down the road. Just want to throw that out there.
Could I just ask, as far as emergency access is concerned, isn't the fire district somehow involved in fielding questions and trying to, input their opinion on what they need to adequately get down the road safely?
Yeah, I would assume that the road review committee and engineering makes necessary communications and referrals in order to get their advisory input.
Well, that should probably be part of the record then, right? Wouldn't it be part of our record?
Yeah, there is a road review committee record and minutes. That's correct. I mean, Kelly, I don't know if you're more familiar with the actual road review committee process, whether or not they send referrals out to the local fire department, whether or not fire department has membership on that committee. I don't know if you know who the members of that committee are.
I don't, I'm just looking at the list of members here. I see, so there's the chief building inspector, the superintendent of highways or designee. So there is somebody from the highway department, the town engineer, the chairperson of the ZBA or another designee, the chairperson of the planning board or another designee, Councilman Rick Martell, and someone from the town attorney's office. I believe it's Catherine Garvin from our office. So you have the town engineer and the superintendent of highways.
So it looks like this has had a lot of review, and it looks like a reasonable plan. How it's actually constructed has something to do with it also. But Donna, you asked the question, who's going to pay for it? Well, typically when an application comes before this board and we issue a permit, then that applicant is required to see that the bills are paid.
And Diane can correct me if I'm wrong, but the full cost of the road improvements would be incurred by Ms. Arlino, by the applicant.
That is accurate.
Yes, my son would like, okay, and I'll come back. I'll finish what I want to say.
Hello, can I ask a question?
Your name, tell
My
your
name is Jesse. Good, her son. This may sound stupid. If like everything is permitted to get the shoulders added in, like, are we still going to be able like to use? Is there going to be like blockage in the road when they're building this section? Like, are we going to be able to like, because like this is our only access in and out of town, like back to our home into the city. So
somebody may be able to answer this, but typically when construction such as this happens, there's a machine that does much of that work to spread the gravel around and to pack it down. So there could be some temporary inconveniences as that machine is actually doing its work, just like you might see on the highway when they're doing some construction. But it would be very short term, and typically my experience is that when somebody needs to go through, they step aside and let the person goes through. This is not a well-traveled road, so I wouldn't anticipate any problems in that regard.
Okay.
Well, I have to say, I understand the undertaking and I understand the new, and I don't want to undermine her, but we've been doing really well down here thus far. However, if this is for the betterment down here, then that's wonderful. However, please, as she said, and have it understood, please don't start this and then just stop in the middle of it. And because that's moving over into that side, that's what floods first, what falls off first, even in a rain. So this is a major undertaking, and you know, everybody, it's a rough time. Everybody watch your pennies. We all do. I don't want to have messiness down here. We've been in peace, please.
Messiness.
Hi, Donna, it's Diane. So I just want to add on to that. Of course, it's not our intention to disturb anyone down the road or in the neighborhood. We'll do it as quickly as possible and as convenient as possible for everyone. And once the construction starts, we also have deadlines and timelines to meet everyone's expectations. So we can always stay in communication as neighbors, and you know, our intention is to have the process as smooth as possible.
Okay.
Are there any more questions by any of the neighbors? Any more hands up, Charles?
No.
I don't
Hello?
see anyone.
I'm
There's no
trying
one
to
raising their
speak.
hand.
Hello? Hello?
Yes.
Hello?
It's Annalee Wilson, but I can't seem to, I can't start my video. It's muted.
Yeah, let's see. See if I can help.
I mean, I can just speak, but.
That's fine.
I'd like to speak too.
So I didn't totally understand. This is Annalee Wilson. Oh wait, the host has asked you to start your video. Let me try that.
Once you click there, start my video.
Okay, start my video. Okay.
Hi. Rex, hi.
Okay, so I'm Annalee Wilson and I live at 148 Point Road, and I am right next to this property, Diane Artolino's property. We are right next to it.
First house on the road.
Right. This is my husband, Rex Wilson. So let's talk one at a time.
Okay.
So I have, I'm not, first of all, we've been on this road since
50 years.
1972 or 73. And there's never been a problem going back and forth. So, you know, and nobody backs down the road that I see. There is no problem such as that. So I hope that clears that up. This is a very sensitive, environmentally sensitive area. There are Diamondback Terrapins that cross the road. We saw several of them, adults and young ones crossing the road during 2020. And I'm assuming we're going to see them again, especially in the morning. This area floods on a regular basis. And when I say regular basis, at least once a year, there's a flood that comes, that really comes along. It usually comes from the east. And I am very concerned that, I mean, from what I understood of the plan, which now it seems like it's a different plan, that this raising of the road in any way is going to create a place for the water to go. I'm sorry?
Let me say something.
No.
I just want to say one thing.
Let me
And
finish.
I'll be done. There's room to pull over right in front of our house at 148 Point Road, which happens, and there's never been a problem in the 50 years we've lived there. And also, when the road has been improved and graded and smoothed with the potholes, delivery trucks and cars just drive faster down it, causing more dust. And so it's a very short road. Going slow down it with potholes is no problem. And there's a couple places to pull over now.
Okay.
I'm done.
So I do not I don't think it would be a good idea to raise this road because I don't even understand how it would work in front of our property if it were 5 or 6 inches higher. It doesn't make sense to me. It seems
I
like,
understand the road is not being raised. Some additional turnoffs are being added to be precise, and that's where the gravel will be placed. The rest of the road is not going to be changed.
Well, the road would be changed only in that gravel would be placed on the length of road from the paved town section up to Ms. Arlino's property.
Gravel the whole length?
Not the whole length, just up to Ms. Arlino's property, right, Diane?
Yes, per the highway department, that's what they had requested, 6 inches.
So no, the only elevation change would be as a result of the placement of stone on the existing road. No sand or soil fill would be brought in. Correct, Diane?
Yes, that's accurate.
okay, it's 750 feet, as I understand it, of road, right?
That's correct.
Okay, and I say, if the road is raised in any way, I don't understand what happens in front of our house to get, because our house at that area our land is the same level as the current road. So it doesn't make sense to me. Also, it would be even dustier than it is when it's dry. I mean, it's like people drive quickly down that road when they should slow down, and it gets really throws up the dust. And I wonder about gravel, dusty gravel, and all that. So as I understand it, I don't understand actually what was described that would be next to our house or in front of Diane's. And I would like to know more about that before I
can explain it to you.
agree or don't agree. I'm very concerned about the wildlife. I want to know, again, I mentioned this thing about the water coming down the road. I've counted we spent some time and I counted every day how many cars went down the road. The most I counted 2, 3, one time I counted 6 up or down the road. And mostly it's the people who live on the road. So there's a long stretch of road before the first house, which is ours. And I would say that's almost, maybe it's 650 feet down the road. So there's like a 650. What do you think?
It's about 500 feet down.
525.
Yeah.
Okay, so 525. So, I mean, I don't like this plan. It seems like I think Donna kind of said it. Things have been going along just fine. As far as I understood, nobody owned the road, but I have a question about if such a proposal as Diane has proposed or that the township is proposing, who would repair this road? What happens after this elaborate graveling and building up and substrate and all this stuff? Who's in charge of the road?
Diane, perhaps you can answer that question.
I would believe that it would revert back to the same situation that we're in now, where we all have a right of way, and technically everybody on the road should be chipping in to repair that said road as it is now. But as we heard Donna say that she has been maintaining it down at 186. So I believe that it would nearly revert back to as it is now with an upgraded road. But
I wouldn't be so sure. I'd want that to be.
That's the problem. That's the problem. We all live on this road. not everybody, some people have different, as you can see, we all have different feelings about this road and how it should be kept. However, few people are willing to back it up with money.
I have something to say
Fair,
about
but I don't think that's something that we are going to be able to get from. That's not
So
something.
are we going to get a guarantee from everybody that we're going to keep up this road? Everybody is going to keep up this road. Are we going to get a guarantee on this? Because I hear her, it's her idea, and I'm going to do this. Rah, rah, rah. We're saying this now. No, but this board is not here to reinforce it later.
We don't make any rules on who owns the road anyway.
What's that?
We don't make
Excuse me?
we don't make a jurisdiction as to who owns the road at this board. We're just here to deal with the wetland application. Should this maybe be referred? Harry?
Yeah, I think one of the things that needs to happen here is Diane and I are going to need to get back to the engineering office, get answers to some of these questions with regards to responsibility for maintenance and some of the other issues. Regarding the dust, I had actually raised concern about that in my advisory report. If the aggregate material produced a lot of dust, that dust is going to affect water quality. It's going to cover the natural vegetation. It's going to affect wildlife. So I, for one, need to speak to engineering to make sure that any material that's being utilized is not going to create a lot of dust. I also hear the concerns about that sometimes the consequence of road improvements is that vehicles will speed up, and that has certain impacts. I also have a question as to whether or not the stone that the road review committee is recommending be placed, whether or not that stone is going to create a lot of noise. Right now, you have a very quiet, sandy road. As you can see in the aerial, the homes are very close to the roads. So not only would the stone dust impact the natural areas, would impact the homes as well. So, it's looking like we need to get additional information from engineering on these questions.
I can save you some money on the dust, okay? You're living on a dirt road with gravel. Anybody that drives in it, whether you're driving 90 or 5, they move through it slow, there's going to be dust.
No.
That's just how it is.
Yeah.
And we use environmentally safe products. And then there's dust, natural dust. That's what it is. When you live on a dirt road, you have dust, no matter what you put down. You put down bluestone, gravel, environmental, you have dust. Real simple.
So we need to adjourn this to get some more information. And Marty, I think it'd be wise to look into the possibility of adding less gravel. My thinking is for a road that's functional right now, to improve it, to add 6 inches of gravel and crushed stone is a huge, huge increase.
Yeah.
If it was my driveway, I'd be thinking about 1 inch, maybe 1.5 inches. I think an inch and a half would be.
Highway though. That was highway and road recommendation.
I hear you, and they may be looking at certain standards, but I think it's worth the question to see if they can be adjusted. Because an inch or 1.5 inches of gravel is a whole lot different than 6 inches.
I'd be happy to do that.
Yeah, they all need a road. They all need a road to get to their house.
We've had one for 50 years and has had no problem.
They're at the front. Mrs. Goodall's in the back.
Okay, so
Just
let's
so you
adjourn.
know,
this.
Road Review Committee has their next meeting on May 11th.
Okay, and our next meeting is
Wait,
May
wait,
12th. Maybe we should wait and we should probably not do it on May 12th. That's pretty close. Let's do it. Can we do it the next meeting, May 26th?
No, we won't be here.
No, we won't be here.
Well, you can do it. Unless you come back over there.
Diane.
Our
what's the
neighbors,
date for you?
Roseanne, okay.
It's your application. How much in a rush are you to get a decision here?
I would really prefer to do it on May 11th if at all possible, just because we need time after that to put everything together, etc. So the sooner the better for us. We've been going back and forth with this for a while. If it's possible, if it
Well,
works.
May 12th is the next meeting. Here's the tension I'm seeing. We have only limited.
May 12th or May 26th.
We only have, our board has only limited authority on this because other boards have certain standards that they're accountable to and they're advising us. I don't know, I got to find out about how much advice that is or how much regulatory authority that is. But environmentally, my thinking and what I'm gathering from the rest of the board is that in this case, less is better rather than more. We see more problems developed by too much gravel. So
I agree. I would be okay with smoothing out the road, getting rid of the potholes, smoothing it out, putting 2 shoulders, and then we have what we can.
Marty will work on trying to get less. And if successful, I think this could just be a 1, 2, 3, and we're done.
Okay.
So we've talked about it. I think we all understand, especially from the neighbors. Thank you for your help. I think we can get a better plan for everybody by putting less down.
Understood.
Okay, so board members, are you okay with May 12th?
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's have a motion.
Motion to adjourn to May 12th?
Second?
All in favor? Harry, aye. George,
Aye.
Jerry,
Aye.
Michael,
Aye.
Ann,
Aye.
Tom,
All right.
Sunshine.
Aye.
Thank you all. Have a good night. Well, for you,
Thank you,
Jeff.
everyone, for your time. I appreciate it.
All right, thanks, Diane. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Okay, the next
Right.
application is A020063, Andrea Lusso and Maria Stoyanova. And the application there is withdrawn. We'll have a motion to withdraw that at the end of the public hearings. CB 1400035 River Rock Structured Capital LLC. This is, let's see, is there somebody here?
Ben.
Yeah, Susanna Herman.
Okay. And are there anybody from the public on this one too?
Penny Lane, David Kirst.
Yeah, I got him.
Thank you.
Okay.
Looks like
Oh, we got a
couple
bunch of
attorneys
people.
in the
All right,
mix.
good. All right, let's wait a moment to get some more pictures up here. They're coming in.
They're in.
Okay. This is an application that we had significant discussion about earlier. And we finished up the last hearing with a question about jurisdiction. So Kelly was gracious to do some research to give us an official opinion. And Michael had some ideas about what we should do on this application. So just to bring everybody up to date, since we're all on the same page here, is that consistent with our history with other applications that are similar to this application in terms of the locations of the project and bulkhead and wetlands on other adjoining properties. The way we have interpreted in the past and the way council has advised us to interpret in this one is the same, and that is we have jurisdiction on this property are 50 feet landward of the bulkhead. So I want to get that out there so that it does contain the limits of our discussion for tonight. And at the last meeting also, there were some comments by a couple of board members, a few board members, that although it's outside of our jurisdiction, perhaps we thought then, but it certainly is now, what this property begs for is an IA system. But we could not require that, especially now, because we see that as outside our jurisdiction. So at this point, I want to turn over to Susanna to see if you have some updates to present to this board.
Excuse me, Harry, 1 second. This is Jerry. I recall the applicant agreeing to an IA system on the property. Am I correct?
Well, let Susanna speak to that.
Susanna Herman and Consultants, 1319 North Sea Road, Southampton, for the applicant. At the last meeting, what I said was that I would check with the engineer who designed the sanitary system and make sure that it was something that could be done easily, because the sanitary system has been installed for both the guest house and for the main house here. So I wanted to make sure that it could be done without too much trouble and make sure that the homeowner was agreeable to it. And since that time, we discovered that yes, it was a simple switch from the existing septic tank that had been installed. So we're now proposing, and let me share my screen real quick so you can see it. I think it's helpful. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, so it's simply switching out the old septic, or not old, the recently installed septic tank would be removed, and a new IA sanitary system would be put in its place. The cesspools would stay as is. So it's actually a relatively easy fix, and the homeowner listened to your suggestions, and it was very clear that that was something that they should consider, and they considered it, and they were very agreeable to doing it at your suggestion. And so we've actually already submitted the application to the health department to modify the health department permits to include that proposed IA system for the primary structure. The other revision that has happened since the last hearing is that we're proposing some additional buffer area up on the northern side of the house. And I apologize, this is just a draft of the survey. We just got this from the surveyor this afternoon, showing that additional buffer area in order to offset the encroachment into the previously approved covenanted buffer here around the guest cottage or carriage house, whatever we're calling it. So this is new. This is slightly more square footage than the encroachment here into the buffer. There was also an additional tree that was previously requested by Marty, and that has been offered by the homeowner to add there.
Thank you, Susanna. Does the board have any questions? Marty, do you have any comments?
No, I would just offer that, I did have an opportunity to quickly look at the updated survey. And as indicated, the buffer expansion that's being proposed is now adjacent to the unbulkheaded wetlands on the abutting property to the north. So while the buffer expansion could have been proposed anywhere on this property, it will have some benefit with regard to protecting those adjacent wetlands. So those are my comments for now.
Thank you, Marty. Are there any comments from the public?
May I make a few comments?
Sure.
Or
Sure.
Mr. Chairman, John Bennett for the applicant. I'm going to try to be very clinical in my comments, and they relate primarily to a letter from Martha Reichert and a letter from David Kirst, both of which I got extremely late, but nevertheless have responded to them. And what they deal with is the timeliness of these objections. I'll leave some of my comments, such as the total inapplicability of the planning board commission staff. The planning commission voted for this as a local determination. Comments about claims that we're claiming vested rights, which we're not. We're talking about latches and mootness and the failure to comply with any statute of limitations, and some other things, including the lack of appropriateness of Ms. Reichert appearing here as a result of the violation of the town's revolving door law. But having said that, what I really want to focus on is this whole issue of the wetlands determination, which has been attacked by both Mr. Kirst and Ms. Reichert. Both the wetlands determination and a challenge to the location of this fully completed and approved by the Zoning Board of Appeals carriage house are woefully late. Both the objections are woefully late to the party. And it's such a critical part of the board's ability, as it should, to just ignore these objections, that I wanted to address it not only to your council, which I've done in a letter, but also to the board, because it's critical to the proper analysis of this. There's a lot of activity has taken place on this, and a lot of history on this application. But if someone had a problem with the board's determination or Marty's determination, they had to say something very quickly. 325-6C of your code provides that the wetland boundary determination, these types of determinations, are made by the chief environmental analyst, and they shall be presumptively correct. That's a very significant determination by the town board as to how you are supposed to administer, and how Marty, in conjunction with you, is supposed to administer this law. His findings are presumptively correct. But Marty, by the way, is not the first town employee who looked at this, or town official who looked at this property and made a determination as to the wetlands. There's a 2002 determination that the 50-foot the jurisdiction of this board was established, and that's backed by Sean Barron in 2002. Now I'm just going to click, these are in my letter. There's a June 11th, 2014, noting that shorefront is bulkheaded. There's a renewal, November 30th, 2017, a modification, March 6, 2018, a renewal, August 1st, 2018, again noting shorefront is bulkheaded. Renewal July 10th, 2019, to the same effect, and a renewal December 10th of 2020. If someone had a problem with the way that Marty had determined the jurisdiction here, and which has now been confirmed by you and your council, if somebody had a problem with it, they had, under 325 of the code, they had 30 days to challenge it, and that didn't happen. That issue is gone. It's time barred as a matter of law. There's nothing to be spoken about. Further, and I've pointed this out in this case law, the doctrines of laches and mootness apply to this application and as it relates to the location of the wetlands. And I'll leave that to your counsel to inform you about that. But you can't sit there, as these objectants have, idly watch this construction go on and not do something in court to what's called preserve your argued administrative rights. They did nothing. And that's, you don't have to take my word for it. The case law is legion. So we're simply, we came back for this renewal and for this modification, I should say. The board asked us to do something outside of their jurisdiction, but we thought it was very fair. We've shown a proposed buffer to mitigate what has taken place on the property. And I would respectfully request that the board hear what the public has to say and close this meeting for determination. There's really not much to talk about. The board has asked for further mitigation. We provided it. The challenges that the objectants are talking about, leaving aside the ethical considerations, are woefully too late. This jurisdictional scope of this board has been decided by my count 7 times, never properly challenged. It's done. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak in this application?
I see. No.
Anybody hands up?
Martha's
Okay.
hand
I'd like
is
to
up.
speak.
I'm happy to let Mr. Kurz go first.
You may speak.
Okay. I first like to respectfully disagree with council's recommendation, as Mr. Ludlow revealed, that their prior precedent and jurisdiction on this is limited to 50 feet. I think we laid out in our letter pretty clearly, and the plain language of 325-4B limits that jurisdiction only under a set circumstances. The first of which is the regulated activity is no closer than 50 feet to the surface waters. That is clearly not the case here. This carriage house is, I believe, 10.6 feet at its closest point to the surface waters. The next category qualifier there is that there would be no other unbulkheaded or unrevetted wetlands landward of the bulkhead. Clearly, again, shown from the applicant's own survey, the flagging's done by the town, there are wetlands landward of the revetment. Getting into whether or not they're on the neighboring property, which they are, and this board has consistently used that for their jurisdiction purposes in the past. I know personally on a case 4295 Noyak Road, Sag Waterview LLC, Mr. Shea and this board took wetlands on the neighboring property, took the full 200-foot jurisdiction, required an 85-foot non-disturbance vegetative buffer, and are now seeming to, backtrack completely on their prior stance and their prior precedent for what I can see is no valid or legally justifiable reason. But even if you didn't consider that they were on, that they were on the neighboring property, it still fails the other two tests, that no construction activity take place closer than 50 feet and no regulated activity take place closer than 50 feet. So there's clearly a failure here on behalf of those qualifiers to exempt this structure from the board's jurisdiction and to not have the full 200 feet from that wetlands. Next, I'd like to, Mr. Bennett's addressing of 325-6C wetland boundary determination. This is, saying, look over here when we're not arguing the wetland boundary determination by Mr. Shea or the prior natural resources environmental consultant. As you can see on their survey, it's still on the screen, there's a tidal wetlands boundary located roughly 18 feet from the structure. What's being challenged here is the board's, or questioned here, is the board's interpretation of this statute and its limits. So Mr. Bennett's attempt to divert you to the timing of when the wetland boundary was flagged are misleading to what the actual problem is here and how the board has treated this in the past on prior properties and how they are required to by law to treat it on this property. And then just finally to address, the applicant pretends as if they have a permit for all of this and it was all done with everything out in the open. And if that were the case, we wouldn't be here for this modification. This modification is here because they built something that they weren't permitted to build. So there can't be latches on as if there was some prior approval that needed to have been challenged. If the applicant would like to build the 559 square foot cottage and 1,000 square foot garage as this board had previously approved in their prior locations without merging them together, connecting the upper levels and making it a 2,600 square foot building, then the applicant may have some argument. But in this case, that's not what they did. They know that's not what they did. This board knows that's not what they did. And I know it's the easy thing to do to say, okay, they'll give us a low nitrogen system for the house. That has zero mitigation impact for the illegally built carriage house structure. And I think our letter lays it out. I really hope that this board will do what's right here, not what's easy. And what's right is to deny this application, make them move this carriage house back as far as they can. I think it's pretty clear that the tennis court is not actually built, as I believe Ms. Reichert's office put in a photo of. It's kind of, you can see visible from the aerials. And this really is a drop in the bucket for the overall cost of this project, that there's really no hardship to move this thing back to where it should have been built in the first place, if the applicant had properly put the plans and what they were doing in front of this board. So that's all my comments for this evening. Thank you very much.
And Martha, did you want to speak?
I did. Thank you, Harry. Excuse me. I join in the comments made by David Kirst, and I agree with his assessment that Mr. Bennett's comments earlier are misleading in the sense that we are not challenging the wetlands boundary. We all agree that the wetlands boundaries are shown on the map. This is also not a dispute about whether or not the property is bulkheaded or not. We all know it's bulkheaded. It's been bulkheaded for years. This is really about statutory interpretation with respect to the board's jurisdiction. And even if the board does not choose to interpret the statute to exert a full 200 feet of jurisdiction, the fact remains that this carriage house remains fully within the board's jurisdiction. And with respect to, again, when we could have challenged the 2018 approval of a 559 square foot cottage, of course, that would have been 30 days from that approval. But what we're here opposing is a modification application in which this board is being asked to legalize nearly 2,000 square feet of a structure, a habitable structure that went from being 1 bedroom to now 3 bedrooms, that is not in any way, shape, or form meaningfully more landward of the wetlands. We've achieved a net gain of about a foot in most places of where these are now further from the wetlands. And so I look at the process that this board normally goes through when it deals with modifications, and it's, instead of the 559 square feet you approved, we built 600 square feet. We'd like to modify and provide mitigation. This is extraordinary amount of relief. And I can't imagine that the board has in its history ever granted this kind of relief where it's legalized 4 times what it approved previously through the process of merely just a modification. I think that the submissions that Mr. Kerr's office and my office have made regarding the law on this standpoint, again, with respect to sort of the equitable arguments of latches and estoppel, the law and the public policy clearly favor that municipalities can fix their mistakes. There is no statute of limitations on it, so long as the municipality recognizes the error. They are not time barred, such as the way an aggrieved neighbor would be time barred. It's a different set of law, but it favors the policy that municipalities can't grant relief in error of their enabling statutes, whether that's the zoning code or in this case, Chapter 325, and that they always have time to fix their mistakes. Again, if you look at what this board approved in 2018, what you're being asked to legalize is immensely different. And it's very close to the wetlands. And there was an opportunity in 2018 when this property was cleared of all structures to put it in a landward location. But again, how could the board have contemplated that it would be a couple years down the road being asked to legalize a structure that's 4 times bigger than what it ever considered? I would implore the board to really stop and take a hard look at the type of relief it's being asked to grant. David Kerr's talked about it in terms of the easy thing or the right thing to do. This board is charged with protecting the wetlands in this town of Southampton. And it's very hard to look at the potential legalization of this project and not see the precedential value that it could have. The fact that applicants are being given a green light to build whatever they want, and then the conservation board will just approve it. I appreciate that an IA system will be built for the main house, although there's sort of a certain amount of irony in that the board is accepting mitigation for a structure beyond its jurisdiction. I also would point the board to the science in Robert Grover's report that was previously submitted, in which he's talked about how even installing an IA on the guest cottage would not truly mitigate the impacts of nitrogen entering Mecox Bay and leachate. And he discussed that, because of the increased number of bedrooms, an IAA system doesn't really offer mitigation. It helps, but it doesn't fix things, and it certainly doesn't make things better or protect the wetlands. I think that's about all I have to say at this point, but I reserve the right to address any comments if Mr. Bennett has anything to say.
Charles, is there anyone else in the audience with their hands up?
No. No hands.
Okay. A couple of points for clarification. One is that in regards to using a IA system for the main house as mitigation, even though it is outside our jurisdiction, there is a part of the code that allows us to use off-site mitigation. This would be a similar concept where it is mitigation which is outside of where our authority lies. But for me, I like to see IA systems installed anywhere in the town because this, for the first time since the county changed and approved these alternative systems, actually removes nitrogen from the septic system that ultimately, historically, would end up in our surface waters. We do look at that as mitigation. And what I didn't clarify when I was explaining the jurisdictional decision of 50 feet is that we look at the bulkhead and we go 50 feet from the bulkhead. And when we do that, there are no wetlands landward of the bulkhead. When we look at the neighbor's property, we see there are actually wetlands, and they are landward of the surface waters, but not of the bulkhead, because there is no bulkhead on the neighbor's property. And that's the reasoning of how we interpret Chapter 325. And we've been doing that for quite some time. Is there anyone else who wants to speak on this application? And if not, I would entertain a motion to close.
Motion to close public application.
It's moved and seconded. All in favor? Harry, aye. George,
Aye.
Jerry,
Aye.
Ann,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Michael.
No.
This is a motion to close the public hearing, not to vote on the application. And Sunshine.
Aye.
Thank you all. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
So that is the end of the public hearings. And the next on the agenda is an application, is a resolution for withdrawal of wetlands permit application number A020063 for Andrea Lusso and Marilla Stoyanova. Is there a motion?
Motion to accept the withdrawal without prejudice.
Second.
Sorry, I can't see in the dark. I was hoping we'd finish in daylight. Didn't happen. Maybe next meeting. Resolve that the Town Conservation Board hereby accepts the withdrawal without prejudice of wetlands permit application number A020063. All in favor? Harry, aye. George,
Aye.
Jerry,
Aye.
Ann,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Michael,
Aye.
Sunshine.
Aye.
The advisory reports are in your packets. And we'll move on for the ZBA, Edward Burke Jr. and Patricia Burke.
This is a pending lot line modification application. It's in the pre-application stage for property in the hamlet of Old Watermill. One of the subject lots has frontage on Mill Creek. The advisory comments indicates that the water quality of Mill Creek, which is an essential tributary to Mecox Bay, is being adversely impacted, and it's been classified as a pathogen impacted water body. Second comment indicates that although part of this lot line modification is outside of the town's wetland permitting jurisdiction, lot line modification is a subdivision, so the planning board needs to send a section 292-39B referral to the board. The third comment indicates that there are no significant objections to the lot line modification, as it's not going to change the residential density. The next comment offers that in order to ensure protection and preservation of the wetlands located on parcel 2, the Conservation Board recommends that the Planning Board require that a notice covenant be filed, and that would advise future landowners that parcel 2 contains town regulated wetlands and that town wetland permits may be required for any land disturbance and or construction. And lastly, that this covenant requirement should be included in the draft conditions that are part of the section 292-39B referral.
Okay, thank you, Marty. That was actually the advisory report for the planning board, 115 and 127 Halsey Lane, which is what I was expecting to introduce, but I actually skipped down to ZBA. So just for the record, clarification, we'll go with that. And that's for the advisory report for the planning board. Is there a motion to send these comments to the planning board?
Motion to send those comments to the planning board.
Second,
All in favor? Harry, I. George,
Aye.
Jerry,
aye.
Ann,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Michael,
Aye.
Sunshine,
Aye.
and Lillian Court, lot line modification.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was looking directly at the agenda. I guess I wasn't listening. These comments are with regards to a lot line modification application. It's in the pre-application stage for properties in Shinnecock Hills that are marked by very significant pitch pine oak woods that are part of the watershed for Minnow Pond. The report does indicate, however, that the lot line modification is located greater than 200 feet from the nearest town regulated wetlands, and as such, a wetlands permit is not required. The third comment recommends that because this wooded property is very large, that any approval of the request be conditioned upon establishment of a conservation easement extending 100 feet south of Montauk Highway on Lot 1. And that would be to allow for preservation of the large stand of existing mature pitch pine and oaks, as well as to provide protection for the scenic wooded character along this section of Montauk Highway. And then the last comment simply indicates that any final subdivision approval needs to be conditioned upon removal of the existing asphalt apron and post with chain associated with the access of Montauk Highway, which is being abandoned. There's also a need for some hand removal of debris and litter within the recommended easement zone.
Motion to send those comments to the planning board.
Second.
All in favor? Harry, I. Ann,
Aye.
Michael,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Jerry,
Aye.
Sunshine.
Aye.
And now for the ZBA, Edward Burke Jr. and Patricia Burke.
The recommended advisory report relates to residentially developed property in the hamlet of Noack. Indicates that the property has frontage on Noack Bay, contains town and state regulated tidal wetlands. It indicates that a wetlands permit is required for the planned demolition of the existing dwelling and redevelopment of this property, as the demolition would occur less than 50 feet landward of surface waters on bulkheaded property. Does recommend that the applicant request a wetland jurisdictional determination with regards to the planned new residence and accessory improvements. And then it simply offers that no determination has been made with regards to the compatibility of the requested relief with the variance issuance standards as set forth in the town building and zoning code.
Motion to send those comments to the ZBA.
Second,
All in favor? Harry, I. George,
Aye.
Jerry,
aye.
Ann,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Michael,
Aye.
Sunshine.
Aye.
Resolution for conditional approval. A 020023 William S. Gaydon II and Peter T. Foley. Any discussion?
Move to issue.
Is there a second?
Second.
Resolve that a conditional wetland permit approval be granted to William S. Gaydon II, Peter T. Foley for the proposed project by the terms and conditions set forth therein. All in favor? Harry, aye. George.
Aye.
Jerry.
Aye.
Ann.
Aye.
Tom.
Aye.
Michael.
Aye.
Sunshine.
Aye.
02. A020040, James and Elizabeth Lou Remkus. Any discussion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Resolve that a conditional wetland permit approval granted to James Remkus and Elizabeth Lou Remkus for the proposed project by the terms and conditions set forth therein. All in favor? Harry, aye. George.
Aye.
Jerry.
Aye.
Ann.
Aye.
Tom.
Aye.
Michael.
Aye.
Sunshine.
Aye.
A020044, Jason and Allison Levitsky. Any discussion?
Move to issue.
Second.
Resolved that a conditional wetland permit approval granted to Jason Levitsky and Allison Levitsky for the proposed project for the terms and conditions set forth therein. All in favor? Harry, aye. George.
Aye.
Jerry.
Aye.
Ann.
Aye.
Tom.
Aye.
Michael.
Aye.
Sunshine.
Aye.
A021009, Laura Bowden and Lucas Torres. Any discussion?
Move to issue.
Second.
Resolved that a conditional wetland permit approval granted to Laura Bowden and Lucas Torres for the proposed project by the terms and conditions set forth therein. All in favor? Harry, aye. George.
Aye.
Jerry.
Aye.
Ann.
Aye.
Tom.
Aye.
Michael.
Aye.
Sunshine.
Aye.
A021022, Paul and Susan Matuszewski. Any discussion?
Move to issue.
Second.
Resolved that a conditional wetland permit approval granted to Paul Matuszewski and Susan Matuszewski for the proposed project by the terms and conditions set forth therein. All in favor? Harry, aye. George.
Aye.
Jerry.
Aye.
Ann.
Aye.
Tom.
Aye.
Michael.
Aye.
And Sunshine.
Aye.
A021031, Bussy Larizakis and Anastasia Larizakis Kulitzos. Any discussion?
Move to issue.
Second.
Resolved that a conditional wetland permit approval granted to Bus Lazarakis and Anastasia Lazarakis Karlatusos for the proposed project on the terms and conditions set forth therein. All in favor? Harry, aye. George.
Aye.
Jerry.
Aye.
Ann.
Aye.
Michael.
Aye.
Tom.
Aye.
Sunshine.
Aye.
A021033, 8 Squared Holly Lane LLC. Any discussion?
Move to issue.
Second.
Resolved that a conditional wetland permit approval granted to 8 Squared Holly Lane LLC for the proposed project about the terms and conditions set forth therein. All in favor? Harry, aye. George.
Aye.
Jerry.
Aye.
Ann.
Aye.
Tom.
Aye.
Michael.
Aye.
Sunshine.
Aye.
Preliminary review of seat determination, A021011, Timothy Shannon and Maris Maniluz.
This application relates to an existing residentially developed property fronting Fish Cove in Hamlet on North Sea. There is a preliminary advisory report dated April 26, 2021. The applicant is seeking a wetlands permit to undertake various improvements, including among other construction of a swimming pool at less than the required construction setbacks. The applicant is unwilling to provide any naturally vegetated buffer in order to mitigate the impacts of construction. I have provided recommendations with regards to design changes which would comply with the required wetland building setbacks and with respect to how a natural buffer could be established and maximized at the site. This is an application for which we need significant additional information. As such, recommending that a hearing be held.
What date?
June 9th.
Motion to schedule public hearing for June 9th.
Second,
Resolved that the Town Conservation Board hereby schedules a public hearing for June 9th, 2021, and the notice of public hearing be published in the town designated newspaper pursuant to chapter 325, section 325-8C of the town code. All in favor, Harry, aye. George?
aye.
Jerry?
Aye.
Ann?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
Sunshine?
Aye.
Modifications, CB 18074. Louis Louis Galasso III Revocable Trust and Carlene L. Galasso Revocable Trust.
This application relates to property in Noyak that fronts on Sag Harbor Cove. In 2018, the board had issued permit to allow for residential improvements. While the project was under construction, they made some refinements to the original authorized building plans that now need to be legalized in order to close out this permit. All of the changes in construction are consistent with the requirements and standards of the original permit. As such, this is a resolution to approve the issuance of the needed modified wetlands permit in order to allow the landowner to close out the permit.
There's a bunch of illegal activity on it, and they're gonna modify that permit, and we're gonna close it
Yeah,
out.
generally in cases where there are changes made in construction and those improvements are still generally consistent with the required setbacks and footprints, it has been the board's policy to legalize such changes through issuance of a modified permit.
Was this one with changes to the design, or it's additional stuff like a barbecue area?
Yeah, there's some, there are some
Site
minor,
conditions that changed, a pergola.
there are minor amenities that were added in terms of an outdoor kitchen and barbecue. There are changes in the configuration of structures, such as reconfigured walkways and retaining walls. The site, they had to reconfigure the sanitary system, retaining walls consistent with health department requirements. The site conditions have not significantly changed, nor are these activities likely to result in any new or significant adverse wetland impacts, as thus the activity is eligible for a modified permit.
There's no need for them to have to file a new permit for the
No,
for the new pergolas. All right.
no.
Motion to approve the modification.
Second.
Resolved that a wetlands permit modification be issued to Louis Galasso III Revocable Trust and Carleen L. Revocable Trust for the proposed project with the terms and conditions set forth therein. All in favor? Harry, I. George,
Aye.
Jerry,
Aye.
Ann,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Michael,
Aye.
Sunshine.
Aye.
Thank you all. I reached the end of my agenda. Anything else for tonight?
Chairman, did you do the minutes from the last meeting?
No.
Yes.
Did we do them?
No.
Sorry.
No.
Well, I don't know if we did or not, but we'll do them again. Or for the first time. Acceptance of the April 14th, 2021 minutes as written and or amended.
Move to accept as presented or amended.
Second.
All in favor? Harry, I. George,
Aye.
Jerry,
Aye.
Ann,
Was I at that meeting? Was that the one I missed?
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
so.
so I abstained.
Oh, wait a second. You didn't come later or something?
There was one, it was a very short meeting.
You're
Well, we have
listed
to-
on as being present.
Excuse me?
You're listed as being present at the meeting.
Okay, then, I accept.
Tom,
Aye.
Michael,
Aye.
Sunshine.
Aye.
All right, thank you. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Harry, I. George,
Aye.
Jerry,
Aye.
Ann,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Michael,
Aye.
Sunshine.
Aye.
Thank you all.